push me, never to be seen. To a place where the air's always filled with screams. So hot that the land only grows weeds. A place filled with demons and ghosts, tumbleweeds. Betrayed by some comrades at too brute. I might get you all back. It's not if, no it's when. Better watch out, cause I'm coming for revenge. I'ma train hard, I'ma go far. I will learn with every new scar. Got a cold heart, yeah I'm feeling arc. Enemies give me energy from the start. Got an addiction to winning, so I will work till I get it. The sweat is dripping, I'm in it, I'll never stop till I finish. I'm feeling demons possessing, they took a hold of my vessel. The energy of a devil, yeah. A new man, a new me. Better watch out, you ain't never seen a beast. I don't always have control, he could be me. Got a chip on his shoulder and he got some sharp teeth. Anyone in my way, and anyone who betrayed, anyone I have to face, I'll wipe them out like the plague. Fly through the air, if you got a death wish, come outside, don't be scared. Yeah, I'm more than prepared, I've been prepping for this day and now it's finally here. Better watch out, cause I'm back now. New and improved, head filled with no doubts. They let the beast out, I let them feast now. I will be at the top, can't keep me down. A new man, a new me. Better watch out, you ain't never seen a beast. I don't always have control, he could be me. Got a chip on his shoulder and he got some sharp teeth. Anyone in my way, and anyone who betrayed, anyone I have to face, I'll wipe them out like the plague. I work blind, got vision I don't need to see. I'm picking mind over matter, I believe in me. I need to find more hours in the day to breathe. Need to find more power in the way I be. And when my mind turns sour with the painful scenes, I need to scream out loud, I can't stop me. I wanna be the greatest like Rocky. You know I leave them all hating like a hobby. I'm out here making moves like a lobby. And if you ain't with me, it's your loss, see. I got my mind on the facts, I'm a python, grab what I like real fast. Till until I have everything I attack, everything that I lack, everything that I want, and I see, matter of fact. Cause I'm my own worst enemy. Only if I let it be. I can control anything if I can just think carefully. I control my destiny. Deep up in my mind I manifest it. Every morning I wake up obsessed, and everything I do the best. And deep within
I'm my own worst enemy. Only if I let it be. I can control anything if I can just think carefully. I control my destiny. Deep up in my mind I manifest it. Every morning I wake up obsessed, and everything I do the best. And deep within my mind, you know I'll always manifest it.
Hello and welcome to my Mind Over Your Matter. My name is Rick. Let's turn on the cameras and let's get the show going. I'm actually packing up my medicine real quick here. I rolled me up a nice little joint here. And it's just in the process of getting it nice and ready for the show. It's been one crazy day for me today. I did my EMG test today, which was very painful. Not a nice test at all. What they did was they test my nerves and my muscles, and I tell you, that was not fun. That was very, very painful. The doctor was pretty cool. He was very helpful and guiding me in what to do. But when they put needles in your body and your muscles, and then they throw this energy at it and it starts pulsating and doing all this crazy shit, it's not fun. It's not fun. And I wouldn't want to wish it on anybody, but I did have it done today, and I have my CT scan next week, so I'll get all these results on December 1st, which is a good month and a half away. And then we'll see what's gonna happen next. I don't know. We'll see. But enough talking, and let's get straight to the news because we got a lot to watch, and I'm trying to get it down to 2.5 hours tonight. So let's go. First, we're going to start off with the tropical storm, Melissa.
But let's bring in Fox Weather Hurricane Specialist Brian Norcross for a bit more insight into this latest advisory. Brian,
yo, what's up, Albie?
Of course, still
yeah, you got the medicine
in the Caribbean, but has certainly a future to intensify as we look into the days ahead.
Got our medicine here ready.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting, though, that the computer forecasts have not forecast how intense these hostile upper-level winds are going to be, which is delaying the intensification process. Kind of puts a little question mark in your head on whether they're going to continue longer than forecast. But in any case, we'll have to go with the information we have.
Like kind of this, I don't know. It doesn't look
satellite.
Symmetry.
We see a couple things here. First of all, look at this very
flat
front on the system.
Don't look right.
That's telling you that there are strong upper level winds coming in this direction here, and indeed they're 20 to 30 miles per hour blowing in there and blowing this dry air over here into the system. On the other hand, look over here and you can see this kind of circulation in here. That's in the mid levels of the atmosphere. So the whole system is kind of tilted over because these upper level winds are pushing on the top of it. And because it's tilted over, it can't get the engine running, so to speak. It's like throwing sand in the gears. You can see this. Look at the clouds here and the direction they're moving here. These are the upper level clouds that are part of that flow that's pushing dry air into the circulation right now. So the Hurricane Center is saying 50-mile-an-hour winds, 1,000 millibars is the pressure, and just barely moving west-northwest at 2 miles per hour. So
only 2 miles per hour?
What's going to happen with these winds here? The forecast is that by the end of the day tomorrow, they should be letting up and perhaps some intensification
Oh,
would
it's
begin.
exposed.
Here's where the hurricane center is locating the system as the center of the circulation down at the ocean level, at the Caribbean Sea level, is right there. But here you see the thunderstorm is way over here because the system is tilted because of those winds I was talking about. And here you can see these arcs coming out here, these arc clouds right in there, with the upper level clouds blowing that way and the lower level winds blowing that way. So when you get that kind of going on in the atmosphere, again, not a conducive situation for development. There's where the model puts the center, and it looks right where the hurricane center has it. This is the European model that we're looking at here. So this is a very moist flow coming up here on top of the system. That's going to be important, I think, for the islands, especially Jamaica, maybe Haiti, and parts of the Dominican Republic, because that flow is going to just be continuous up in that area with this very slow moving storm. All right, so here's the cone, and yes, it's a very funky looking cone from the hurricane center, and we've
it's a weird looking cone,
so you can sort of make it out. It's because the cone is all squished because the system isn't moving very much. Remember, it's only moving 2 miles per hour right now. So by tomorrow afternoon, the thinking is some intensification, maybe 60 miles per hour.
I'm doing good. How about you, Terry?
65 miles per hour on Friday. So next 2 days, still in that quasi-hostile kind of condition.
You gotta watch the storm, because the storm may have the potential to come up here to Connecticut.
Drifting kind of northish, and then it kind of drifts.
So we got to pay attention to the storm.
West. Now, does it come up here closer to Jamaica? Does it stay just south? But remember, that moisture flow is on the north side of the system, or does it kind of turn down here quite a ways south and keep the core of the moisture away from Jamaica? So it's just really close to call there. Let's look 2 more days. Now we go till Monday afternoon, and look what we have here: 130-mile-an-hour Category 4 hurricane. How close to Jamaica is it, or does it dive down in here in kind of a nowhere's land? There are a few islands down there, honestly, but away from the more populated islands in the northern Caribbean. And how about the moisture flow and affecting those mountainous islands? So this is a big question when we get to the first of the week. And then what happens after that? Well, what happens after that next week is it is going to get pulled out of the Caribbean. And the question is exactly where. Now, when we look at the Google AI model,
Jamaica is in the middle.
There are kind of 2 camps here. One is it just kind of stalls around here somewhere, and then does it go up north here? That's the first dip in the jet stream, could scoop it up, or the consensus is it kind of comes over in here eventually south of Jamaica somewhere. How close to Jamaica is an open question. If this turns into a Category 4 or 5 hurricane, how close is going to be a very important question coming up. All right, now when we add the GFS and the European models, the red is the European, the yellow is the GFS. What you see
it looks like a Picasso painting.
Here, kind of sorting all this out, is that eventually the system is going to go to the northeast, over Cuba,
adding more
Jamaica,
lines,
over Haiti. One of those possibilities in that range.
That's just a little bit too confusing.
In the Caribbean, how strong it gets, and other factors, exactly where it lifts north.
Just throw a whole bunch of lines up there.
It is going to lift north, and that's what's going to happen.
Ridiculous.
When we look at the consensus of the traditional models, the GFS and the European and the UK Met and a few others, you see it kind of comes up, starts like the hurricane center, and then takes on off to the northeast, and it does that sooner. For the hurricane center, you can see, takes the system farther on off to the west. When we look at the Google AI consensus, just based on that model, very much like the hurricane center, coming north, then coming west, then zooming on off to the north over the eastern part of Cuba. So we're settling in on a track, something like that, but still we have a pretty good range across Cuba and over toward Haiti. When you add all that up and say, okay, what are the odds of it being in any one location? You can see, unfortunately, well, we have certainty here in the short term, and unfortunately, this area in here, south of Jamaica, is a favored area, adding up all those odds that you saw, because now the circulation is going to come like this, and it's going to come across the southern part of Hispaniola there with Haiti and the Dominican Republic, and slam into the mountainous island of Jamaica. So this is kind of a dangerous looking situation for late in the weekend into early next week in Jamaica.
A whole
And then,
week
of course,
to wait
if it
on this
comes out
shit.
here and then
That's
turns north,
crazy.
the bad side of the storm, the right side of the storm, is staying on toward Jamaica. Jamaica is on that side of the storm all the way through that process. So this is a situation where in Jamaica, people really need to be thinking about a lot of rain on the higher elevations coming downhill, the traditionally dangerous areas, and so forth. All right, so what's driving all this? Well, it is the jet stream. It is late in the year, so the jet stream is dipping far south. It's over Florida now.
Yep.
Here's where the storm is. Not really affecting it yet, maybe starting to nudge it north just a tiny little bit. So let's go forward in time to tomorrow. Now the jet stream is dipping down and trying to pull it north. And those models that showed it going over Haiti, this is what's getting it and pulling it in that direction. The National Hurricane Center is thinking that that's not going to happen. The Google AI model says that's likely to not happen. So we're just going to keep an eye and see how far north this thing can pull it tomorrow. Then it moves on out of the picture. And then we're looking at the European model here and the Hurricane Center forecast.
Beast.
So the icon is the Hurricane Center forecast. European has a very, very strong hurricane not far southwest of Jamaica here on Tuesday. So this is going to be a very close.
Hey, you could go straight to Guantanamo Bay is right there.
Most of this storm is, and where Jamaica is relative to that, with a Category 4, can't rule out a Category 5 hurricane in that vicinity somewhere. And then you can see it gets pulled to the north. Here comes a strong dip in the jet stream here. Now it's going to pull it north. Here we are Wednesday, and then it just zooms on out and it's gone. It gets kind of absorbed in this.
I hope it does that, and I hope it doesn't come close to us
over the eastern part of the U.S. This is still down here because this is only a 5-day forecast. This goes all the way to Friday of next week. So that's the plan. Exactly the angles involved and how close it is to these islands, that's the open question, because here's the bottom line. Based on the forecast right now, you can see where the heavy rain is. Look at this. The southern half of the Dominican Republic, Tiburon Peninsula, and Haiti, and we've got the dark reds there. That's 2 feet of rain. Same story over eastern Jamaica, a good part of Jamaica, 2 feet of rain, maybe even more up in the purples. That's up to 3 feet of rain. And we've seen some indications it could even be more in some spots. So this whole area in here, all these islands, just depends exactly on the track, exactly where the moisture is going. Even Puerto Rico, 2 to 4 inches of rain forecast there. So some potential flooding there. Stay in close touch with the National Weather Service out of San Juan if you're on Puerto Rico. But Jamaica, Eastern Cuba, Haiti, Dominican Republic, this could be a catastrophic situation in some of these areas, depending on exactly where that moisture flows.
All right, let's keep it moving. We got more to cover here. I want to watch this episode of Law and Crime Sidebar with Jesse Weber. It's about the little girl from up here from Connecticut, the 12-year-old little girl. They did an in-depth report, so I want us to watch it. So let me set it up, and let's watch.
This heartbreaking case out of Connecticut. We talked about it the other day. We've learned new information. This is where the body of 12-year-old Jacqueline Torres Garcia was found inside of a plastic coat behind an abandoned
How you doing? You got a lot of rain.
Britain. And now we have this new update. Okay, so Law and Crime has obtained a newly unsealed search warrant, and it reveals disturbing new details that investigators say they uncovered, including what happened after Jacqueline's death and how her body was moved. And this warrant also describes messages and photos that police say show the extent of the abuse, including one image that was allegedly sent by Jacqueline's aunt showing this 12-year-old girl zip-tied and lying on a pee pad. Now, we're going to break down what's inside this new warrant, how it changes what we know about this case, because what's laid out in these pages, it hits even harder when you understand where this story began, how a 12-year-old girl's life just slowly disappeared from view. So this, again, is Jacqueline Torres Garcia. For years, she attended school in New Britain. That was until August 26th of last year, when her mother, Carla Garcia, apparently suddenly withdrew her, saying that she'd be homeschooled instead. No one knew it then, but that was the last time anyone outside that home would ever see Jacqueline alive. And police now believe that in the months that followed, inside their Farmington apartment, Jacqueline was abused and starved and restrained. And investigators say this abuse continued through the fall of 2024, the same period they believe she died. But instead of reporting her death, detectives allege that Carla and her boyfriend, Jonathan Nanita, kept her body hidden, first in their basement and later when they moved to New Britain inside this plastic storage tote that they brought with them. So months passed, no one reported her missing, and then you go to October 8th, 2025, and everything changed. You have this anonymous 911 caller who reported something suspicious that was going on, and it was behind this abandoned home on Clark Street in New Britain. When officers arrive, this is when they make a discovery that is horrifying, because that plastic tote, sealed shut, inside, they find the remains of Jacqueline Torres Garcia. At a press conference, New Britain Mayor Erin Stewart said this.
As a mother, this makes me sick to my stomach to be standing here today with what we're about to tell you. On Wednesday, October 8th, when a report of suspicious activity at 80 Clark Street in New Britain came in from an anonymous caller requesting police, responding officers had no idea what they would be walking into. This caller reported suspicious activity at a known abandoned house in their neighborhood. This house had been vacant for over 2 years, and it was owned and is owned by an out-of-state landlord from New York. None of those determined to be involved with this case have ever resided at this property. I want to thank the initial caller for speaking up, for having the courage to say something. Without that initial call, no one can say for certain where we would be at this point in time.
And police have called this case exactly what it is: heartbreaking and disturbing.
35 years, this is probably one of the worst cases that we've had to, I think the facts that you have, that she probably died a long time ago and was stowed away, is probably enough to show you what we are dealing with here. So yes, very, very difficult on everybody handling these cases.
So within days, detectives announced 3 arrests here. Jacqueline's mother, Carla Garcia, she was charged with murder with special circumstances, conspiracy to commit murder, improper disposal of a body, tampering with physical evidence, unlawful restraint, intentional cruelty to a child under 19, and risk of injury to a child. Garcia's sister, Jacqueline Garcia, the aunt here, was charged with intentional cruelty to a child under 19, risk of injury, and first-degree unlawful restraint. Garcia's boyfriend, Jonathan Nanita, was the last to be taken into custody, arrested the day after Carla and her sister. And once police confirmed his alleged involvement in Jacqueline's death, he was then charged with murder with a special circumstance, conspiracy to commit murder, risk of injury to a child, unlawful restraint, intentional cruelty to a child under 19. And while these arrests were unfolding, DCF's involvement in Jacqueline's life came under scrutiny. This is something we talked about, because according to newly released agency records, DCF first stepped in when Jacqueline was born back in 2013. This was after her mother was in detention. Jacqueline was placed with a paternal relative who became her legal guardian, and DCF closed the case later that year. You had intermittent involvement that followed over the years related to her younger sibling. The final pre-death contact came in September of 2022, confirming that the children were safe, that they were receiving care. And as I mentioned, in August of 2024, that's when Carla Garcia withdrew Jacqueline from public school, claiming that she would homeschool her. In January of 2025, DCF, they reopened contact due to concerns regarding Jacqueline's younger sibling. They arranged a video call with someone who presented as if they were Jacqueline. That's one of the weird aspects of this. This is, by the way, months after police say she had already died. DCF closed the case again in March of 2025 after there were really no concerns that were flagged. Years of family conflict over custody. That created additional tension in this story. Court records show that after initial placement with her paternal grandmother, Patricia Delgado, there were these custody disputes between Jacqueline's parents and relatives that continued for years. And after regaining custody, Garcia reportedly restricted family access to her daughter. But here is where the story takes a deeper and darker turn. This newly unsealed search warrant is offering a look inside what police say may have been happening in the weeks and months leading up to Jacqueline's death. So to help us break all this down, I want to bring on family law attorney Jennifer Roman. Jennifer, thank you so much for coming here back on Sidebar. This is a unique kind of case because from your experience, how common is it for a child to just disappear when maybe you don't have continual DCF oversight, like on a continual basis, but they were a part of this girl's life for quite some time? Is it uncommon to see something like this?
Unfortunately, no. And I think it's becoming more and more common. DCF reported that for at least a period of 2 years, if not more, they had no contact at all with the family. And that's because DCF said there was no reports of abuse, no concerns of abuse. They had previously provided services. Families seemed to be cooperating, and the court ultimately returned custody to little Mimi's parents, and DCF no longer had involvement with the family. The circumstance that makes this particularly unique, however, is that they homeschooled her and they pulled her out of the school system in around, right before the school year started in August of 2024. And Connecticut doesn't have any oversight over homeschooled children. So nobody had eyes on her after May of 2024 when she last saw her doctor.
Is it fair to say, hey, agencies, courts, they should have done something differently?
Yes.
If you have these repeated issues, these family disputes, these restrictions, that these were red flags. Is that a fair thing to ask or no?
It's definitely a fair thing to ask. And those are always questions that do get asked when we have something as horrific and tragic of an outcome as we do here.
Yeah. And what is the role, what is the responsibility of family members or caretakers in something like this? Obviously, hindsight's 2020, but is there anything more if someone's looking at a case like this that those around a child or those around the family should do?
Sure. I mean, you certainly start to wonder. Mimi was failed on so many levels, not only by the system, but by all the adults in her life, including family members and potentially neighbors and others in the community. Her maternal aunt told police she thought she was going to die in the fall, late summer, early fall of 2024 when she stopped living with the family. There had been a paternal grandparent who had had custody of Mimi and her siblings for 6 or 7 years because the parents were unfit and unable to care for her. So it does make you wonder what happened to those concerned adults, why they weren't seeing what was going on, or why there wasn't more red flags or issues of concerns raised. From what we can gather, Mimi was starved to death.
Wow.
And tortured and abused for an extended period of time. And so you do wonder where these other adults were, why they didn't say anything. I mean, the maternal aunt says, I knew she was going to die. The maternal aunt didn't bring anything to the authorities. So Mimi was just failed on so many levels. It's just truly tragic. And now that aunt is facing her own criminal charges, which is, frightening to say. So I want to get into this search warrant affidavit. As I said, it's going to provide more details here. So the investigation takes this turn when police received a tip that would ultimately lead them to Jacqueline's remains. According to the affidavit, quote, on October 8th, 2025, the New Britain Police Department received an anonymous tip concerning the location of a possible dead body on Clark Street in New Britain. According to the complaints, Jonathan Nanita picked up a tote in the woods of a cemetery and put it in the back of his Acura. Jonathan Nanita then drove to 80 Clark Street in New Britain, where he removed the tote from the back of his Acura and left it on the property there. The complainants believe the tote would have contained a body. And by the way, the autopsy results confirmed the identity of that child, provided further context on her condition before death, because according to the affidavit, it says, Dr. Pasquale Stiles noted that there were no signs of recent trauma or injuries to her body that would have contributed to her death. Dr. Pasquale Stiles noted that Jacqueline appeared to be malnourished. And police, they quickly identified Carla, her sister Jacqueline, Carla's boyfriend Jonathan as potential suspects. And when Carla was interviewed by investigators, she allegedly made admissions about the abuse and neglect. According to the affidavit, she, Carla Garcia, and Jonathan Nanita stopped feeding Jacqueline for approximately 2 weeks prior to her death. Carla Garcia also admitted to previously restraining Jacqueline in zip ties as punishment when she was acting bad. This affidavit goes on to detail how the body was concealed following her death. According to the affidavit, quote, Carla Garcia stated Jonathan Nanita brought Jacqueline's body downstairs, but she wasn't sure what he did with it. Carla Garcia stated the odor from Jacqueline's decaying body was so strong, they had to leave their residence in Farmington and stay with friends or at hotels. Carla Garcia later admitted that she knew Jacqueline's body was transferred to a tote and was put in the back of Jonathan Nanita's Acura. Carla Garcia admitted she knew the tote containing Jacqueline was transported to New Britain when they moved to 24 Clark Street at the end of March. Jennifer, this is just a horrifying account
First of all, from a legal point of view, does it make sense how this girl died? Not the recent trauma, but the idea of not feeding her. I think we're getting a sense of what might have happened here.
Yes, the indication, the autopsy said there was no signs of trauma, but yet she appeared to be malnourished. And then we take that in conjunction with the mother's reporting that they would punish her by withholding food, by tying her up with zip ties. Carla admitted that they hadn't fed her for 2 weeks prior to her death in September of 2024. And we also have Carla's sister who said, and Carla herself, who admitted she received a photograph from her sister, Jacqueline, showing the child zip-tied and on the floor on wee-wee pads, and kind of the wee-wee pads you'd use for an animal training a dog sort of thing. Just so horrific. But it was clearly an extended period of abuse and neglect for this young child to have died in the circumstances that she did.
It's inhumane. It's hard to even process this. I'm going to ask you a question that I want to be clear about this. I don't believe this, obviously, but you wonder what a legal argument would be. I wonder in your experience if this is an argument you've seen. I know that there's always, the goal is to have reunification of the biological family, always making sure a child stays with their biological parents. But at the end of the day, are you going to see an argument here? And I wonder if you've seen it before. Look, we're allowed to discipline our child. It may be different. It may be unorthodox. Where does it cross the line? I would say not feeding your child for 2 weeks and zip tying them probably crosses the line. But have you seen that argument before? Hey, I'm allowed to slap. I'm allowed to put them on a wee-wee pad. I don't know. Is that something that you've seen before? Has that ever been successful? I'm not even sure that they would raise this argument, but I've seen it in other cases before, and I'm just curious your thoughts.
Yeah, we have seen other cases where the defendant sort of alleges that they were exercising their parental authority and how they chose to discipline a child, even if that discipline crossed the line into abuse or was clearly abusive. In a situation like this, however, I don't think that's the defense we're going to be seeing. I think Carla has already set herself up, according to the affidavit from the police, that it was her boyfriend who was inflicting the abuse and she was somehow helpless or powerless to prevent it. There appears to, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a drug history here. There's clearly a mental health history of some type, because I don't think any parent does this to their child unless there's something really wrong with them. They're in some sort of an altered state, whether that's because of abuse of substances or alcohol or because of mental health, or usually a combination of the two. So I think that Carla's defense is really going to try to set her up as the less culpable of the two between her and Jonathan. And Jonathan is the one who, removed the body, moved the body, hid the body, took the body off the premises, moved the body back, abandoned the body. So in terms of, a culpability argument, I think that's where we're going to go. Carla's going to try to distinguish herself and get herself a lesser sentence for the murder charges that she's facing, or maybe even try to get something like an involuntary manslaughter where she would have a lower sentence and really try to lay the blame on Jonathan as being the true perpetrator here. I don't know whether or not that's going to be successful for her. We just don't know enough yet about the circumstances, but at first blush, I would say, I don't think either one of these defendants have a shot. I think they're both, the evidence the limited evidence that we already know is so overwhelming and damaging to them that I don't think we're really looking at a meaningful plea deal for either one of them.
And to be honest, there's two components to this, right? I mean, if they try to suggest that she died from natural causes, they could still potentially, but not even saying that would work, they'd still be potentially on the hook for concealing the body, right? And if you conceal the body, what does it say about your involvement? So there's two different separate points there. But also, I'll say this, as we're trying to say, was there an agency? Was there somebody that could have stepped in? I did wonder if one of the challenges when I read this warrant is it tough to detect chronic neglect that may not on the surface be so apparent versus these acute, specific, visible injuries where you could see how a child is killed. Even if somebody was looking at Jacqueline or monitoring her, it may have been tough to know something was going on, right?
Yeah, I mean, according to the police reports, or DCF rather, they said that Jacqueline had last seen her doctor in May of 2024. When a child's sort of not in the community, the pediatrician becomes the first line of defense. So if the pediatrician wasn't noting any signs of neglect or abuse, then the red flags aren't going to be raised. And then we have this situation where they took her out of school and they said they were homeschooling her. So now we don't have the school and the teachers and the administrators getting their eyeballs on her. So she was very much isolated, which is a form of abuse in and of itself. But that to me shows the intention and the premeditation of the mother and father. They were taking strategic steps to isolate Jacqueline, to keep her out of the world's view, to keep her out of the system, right? They knew what DCF would do. They knew what was involved. They even took it a step further that when DCF came in to investigate her younger sibling, they said, the mother said Jacqueline's visiting family out of state, and they made someone available for a video conference. That someone wasn't Jacqueline. But does DCF know when they haven't dealt with this, they haven't seen this child in 2 years, and they see a child over video conference, can they really discern whether or not that's still the same child or not? Probably not. Children grow and change so much between the ages of 9, 10, 11, and 12, and they had limited contact with the family to begin with. So, the parents here really took a lot of steps to keep this under wraps, to keep this out of the agency's purview. And that just made it that much harder for DCF in this situation to be able to really assess what was happening.
And you mentioned the aunt. So the affidavit highlights what police say was the role of Jacqueline's aunt in documenting this alleged abuse, because according to the affidavit, it reads, Carla Garcia admitted that her sister, Jacqueline Garcia, sent her a photograph of Jacqueline when she was lying on the floor on pee pads, restrained in zip ties. Carla Garcia stated she didn't have the photograph on her phone as she now had a new phone. Okay, now Jennifer, that's remarkable, that aspect of it, the aunt, the sister here, right?
Yeah, the sister clearly knew that there was something horribly wrong with this situation and the treatment of her niece, and she didn't do anything. She sends a picture to the mother, but the mother is perpetuating the abuse. The mother's part of the abuse equation here. She didn't go to the police, she didn't go to the authorities, and one has to wonder why not.
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't have an answer for that. I really don't. I will say this, investigators, they apparently obtained additional admissions from Carla Garcia. And I think that's going to really complicate the case because it regards her actions, her intentions after Jacqueline's death. According to the affidavit, it reads, Carla Garcia also admitted that she told her sister, Jacqueline Garcia, that Jacqueline died on September 19th, 2024. Carla Garcia also told Detective McOwen that most of the punishments towards Jacqueline were under the direction of Jonathan Nanita, and that he handled her body after she died. Detective McOwen relayed that Carla Garcia shared she was about to go on a podcast prior to her arrest, where she was going to share the story of what happened to Jacqueline. Detective McOwen stated Carla Garcia told him she wrote notes of the story on her cell phone so she could reference them for the podcast. Now, this is something we've talked about, Jennifer, in the previous episode of Sidebar. It's just a weird detail, but you're right. This idea of putting the blame on someone else, and I guess the argument would be, I was scared. There's only so much I could do. I was in this relationship, or I was with this person where I couldn't stop what happened. I was scared for my own life. I'm not saying that's necessarily what she's coming up with here, but seeming to put the emphasis on him. What do you make of this?
I think that's her only shot at getting a reduced sentence, is to somehow blame Jonathan, make him more culpable. I suspect I'm an addict. Jonathan abused me. There was a level of coercive control or physical and emotional abuse going on as well. So I was helpless to help, and I was compromised by my addiction issues or my substance abuse issues. I wasn't able to think rationally and clearly. This has sort of got the underpinnings for those kinds of arguments. I don't think they're going to be effective, but that would be the only defense that she could really mount from what we're seeing so far.
And this idea of, I guess, you were going to document or publicly recount what happened in a podcast?
So bizarre. That is just one of the most bizarre facts of this case. And why? You're going to go publicly and say, oh, my child was starved and abused and zip tied, and that helps her how? That's where I kind of come back to, how compromised is her ability to think
I'm looking at the
and
location. I
to
already
act,
found it
and is
on the
that
map.
going to play into her defense?
I know
Because
where
it's
it's
just
at.
such an
I
odd
know
fact. It's
exactly
just
where
so
it's
bizarre.
at. That's
There's
crazy.
an aspect to this
You've
where you think about when this girl died and how long it takes to find out something like
They
this
don't live too
happened.
far from that place.
I don't know if every case is like this, but is this an outlier to you?
That's crazy.
You know, unfortunately, we've been hearing more and more of these situations where a child is chronically abused, tortured, malnourished, and it ultimately leads to their death. I'd like to think it's isolated. I'd like to think that this really doesn't happen, but I think we've heard about this in the news. There's been a couple of these cases in the last 6 to 9 months, and it's just deeply disturbing.
During
Just
these
so
6 years, she
disturbing.
was living with her
Carla
grandmother.
Garcia and Jonathan Nanita, they remain behind bars on $5 million bonds. Jacqueline Garcia is being held on a $1 million bond. They're due back in court on November 14th. Obviously, this is the second time we've been covering it. If something should develop, if we learn more information, we'll make sure to stay on top of it here on Sidebar. Jennifer Roman, thank you so much for taking the time. It was good to see you.
What a great setup there for what's to come, because I don't live far from where this case is where the body was discovered. I'm not too far from that location. And I'm gonna see if I could take a trip out that way. I haven't been feeling good. I've been going through all this medical stuff, and I had a really horrible EMG test today. Like testing my nerves and the muscles, and like it was not fun. It felt like this lightning going through my body. That's how it was shocking me. My nerves. My neck was going crazy. I was going crazy. But I'm gonna be following up on that case. I'm not letting that case slide. That's a very important one, and I hope. The problem is that Connecticut does not have a death sentence. Like we don't have the death sentence here, which really sucks, right? It's like, what the fuck you mean we don't have the death sentence? Yeah, Connecticut does not have the death sentence. The only thing they could end up with is life in prison without parole. That's the only thing that they could get. Like the highest, that's most likely what they're gonna get is that life in prison without parole, and I think all three of them is gonna end up getting that, which is, I don't know. They're gonna release more information on the 28th of October. They're gonna I guess they're gonna unseal some evidence and share with the public. So the 28th is a very important day, and also November 14th. November 14th is the next appearance for those individuals, fucking idiots, that have a court date to go back to the judge, and I guess that's where they're gonna hit them with the charges and so forth. And yeah, it's just, I just wish Connecticut had the death sentence, because these three, like, deserve to be fried or to be injected. Like, I always say, look, remember how I always used to say, eye for an eye? If you did this to one, then what you did to that one has to be applied back to you in your death. And that's how you should die. The same way that little girl died should be the same way the mother, the aunt, and the sleaze bag should die. Tortured. It's only fair. I mean, do you agree or disagree with me? Fuck. That's crazy, man. How people could do that? Poor little girl. Oh my god. It's just, the more I get involved, the more attached I get. That little girl's gonna come right through me. I'm telling you, I'm very sensitive to this type of energy. and I know where this place is, and I've been feeling like shit though, man, to go out there and deal with whatever energy that's there. And there's a lot of energy, it's just, it's tough, man. That's going to be a tough case. All right, we're going to have to go nonstop for a while. So bear with me, and we're going to go a little nonstop. See if I can get this fixed here. Okay. But how's your evening going? I hope you guys are doing good tonight. Or whoever's watching or rewatching, thank you for watching. Appreciate it. For those who come and watch at a later time, thank you. I appreciate it so much. I try to put out a lot of news for us to watch, and I'm watching it for the first time, so that's why you see me like looking directly at this. Is the camera's right there, but the screen is right there, and I'm watching it for the first time as you guys are watching it with me, and I appreciate that. And knowing is half the battle, right? So I'm trying to get as much information and have you guys join along and get the input. I need more input. Be like short circuit. Input. Okay, let's go ahead and go to the next. I don't even know what's lined up. I'm just gonna go and just nonstop. Ready? 3, 2, 1.
The Trump White House getting a new look. The administration is overseeing the remodeling of the East Wing, making way for a brand new ballroom that won't cost taxpayers a dime. While many seem to think that the ballroom is a terrific idea, the site of the demolition crew has some Democrats seething with rage. But at the end of the day, those Democrats who are upset with the new ballroom will eventually be able to use it. They just need over 270 votes. Hello, everyone. This is Outnumbered. I'm Kayleigh McEnany here with my co-hosts, Harris Faulkner and Emily Compagno. Also joining us, Molly Hemingway, Fox News contributor, and Ari Fleischer, former White House press secretary and Fox News contributor. Well, the walls are in construction. They're coming down. Trump is set on giving parts of the White House a more modernized look as the East Wing is currently undergoing the demolition process.
Wow.
Some of Trump's biggest critics call this a terrible idea, like Hillary Clinton, who lost to Trump in 2016 and doesn't seem to think that it's his house. Governor Newsom compares the White House remodeling to ripping apart the Constitution. And Elizabeth Warren is complaining over the sound of bulldozers demolishing the East Wing. Karine Jean-Pierre and the lovely ladies of The View would agree. They seem to think the idea is both tacky and gaudy.
The People's House is basically being sold to the highest bidder. Yeah. It is corruption at its core. And I heard someone say this when I was backstage. It could not be, there's no greater metaphor right now than what's happening right now.
Look how they're projecting.
Than watching Donald
Trump
crazy. Take a wrecking ball to the White House.
Yeah. That is not your building. You don't own that.
This is a metaphor for what's going on in our country. He is tearing down the house. He is tearing down the people's house. He's an annihilist. And I think, he does seem to think that it's his house, that he is a king. He thinks he's going to be in that ballroom.
Somebody who is building something like that,
I'm going to be alive.
We've been playing this for a while.
To get out of office.
Other liberal media members like Joe Scarborough say Trump's White House remodeling is, quote, grotesque.
It's hard to believe that any president could destroy the White House and take a wrecking ball to an existing structure so historic. That is what's happening. It's grotesque.
It's painful. I mean, this is
historic structure.
It's his.
Yeah, I know.
being
I was living
tarnished,
here
right?
when that fucking shit happened.
Mika says she's in pain there.
Fucking
Okay. Well,
Malloy.
why the uproar now? The liberal left wasn't this mad when past presidents made key White House changes. Let's revisit them. Teddy Roosevelt built the West Wing. Coolidge made his own renovations. FDR overhauled the West Wing. Truman gutted the whole White House. Look at these pictures.
Look at this
Nixon
shit.
expanded a whole room for the press, and Ford installed an outdoor swimming pool. How dare they? But the left is mad at Trump building a ballroom. At the end of the day, the White House doesn't seem to care what the liberals in the media are actually saying.
We're putting up our own money with the government is paying for nothing. You probably hear the beautiful sound of construction to the back. You hear that sound? Oh, that's music to my ears. I love that sound.
Administration after administration have publicly and privately spoken about the need for a larger event space. So while many presidents have privately dreamt about this, it's President Trump who is actually doing something about it.
It's gonna look grand
We just
when
put
it's
up
done.
a few of the images. I'm also going to do this scroll. You can see all of the changes to the White House. 1902, building the West Wing. 1973, adding the bowling alley. The list goes on. We'll bring up some more pictures. But hey, who cares about the history? We just have Trump derangement syndrome.
Yeah, I mean, the Democrats always look good in hysteria, don't they? Look, when I first saw the pictures, I do have to admit, it was a little jarring. You could see destruction of an outside wall of the White House. My first reaction was, whoa. But then you think about it and you go, this is called progress. Anybody who's ever done a project, anybody who knows the history of the White House, the history of the Capitol, they just built a Capitol Visitor Center. Go back and take a look at the pictures of when they destroyed everything in front of the United States Capitol. Pedestrians couldn't walk there to build what's now a handsome visitor center. I predict to you that these Democrats who are criticizing the ballroom now, they can't wait to visit it. And so for all those former West Wing staffers who are now piping off, or members of Congress who say it's horrible, I challenge them, never go to it. Once it's up and it's an accepted, beautiful, handsome, wonderful part of the White House that people look forward to and they brag, I got invited to the ballroom, don't go. Put your mouth or put your body where your mouth is and don't go.
Yeah, no, and as we noted, Emily, they'd have to get the 270 votes unless they're invited by President Trump. You know, we have these images on the wall we're putting up. I also want to pull up just these close-up shots. And it just shows through history, Emily. You know, you have 1902, that's the West Wing construction, 1934, West Wing expansion, the list goes on. These are pretty jarring images, to Ari's point, but they ended up creating a beautiful White House.
Yeah, by my count, over 14 presidents have made extensive major remodeling, including Hillary Clinton's husband, who moved the putting green closer to the Oval Office so he didn't have to walk as far after he enjoyed his cigars. I will say, too, that she was paramount in the renovation of the dining room. So it is so hypocritical for these people to now, as history apparently only began when President Trump entered the scene, to have an issue with him upgrading what is the people's house. And I note, too, that if anyone has an issue, why wouldn't it be, I would think, Nixon, who replaced the swimming pool with the press briefing room, or even Wilson, who was the one that replaced the Colonial Garden with the Rose Garden. It's not like President Trump is destroying history. What he's doing is upgrading and making improvements on what past presidents already upgraded and made improvements. I venture to say that if any of those critics were living in a house that maybe was built in 1952 or 1902, that they too would say, you know what, I'm going to redo the plumbing and I'm going to make this better for everyone. And the president talked about, too, the logistical snafus that I'm sure all the press is grateful for. Heels sinking in the grass and muddy suit pants and the like. It's like at a certain point, you have to sort of honor the purpose of, again, parts of the people's house to say we're making it better and you're welcome.
Yeah, I loved yesterday when he described the press standing in the Rose Garden. He's like, they like sink 5 or 6 inches down in the mud. It was hilarious. Molly, Emily mentioned Clinton, and I just want to remind viewers about all of the respect that Clinton had for the White House. Clinton okayed using Lincoln bedroom for contributors. CNN headline from 97. LA Times, Clintons began taking White House property a year ago, and then they returned $28,000 in White House furnishing. That's, of course, before we get to personal indiscretions, which we are too classy to put up.
Yeah, I was really wondering why Hillary was not thinking about her own history and the history of the staff when they took all of the silverware and they had to return it. It is true that you should respect this place, and I don't think she or her people really did that. Notable indiscretions in particular. But I think it is a really good point that the White House is not as elegant as a lot of European residences, and that's cool because Americans are more we don't revere our presidents as royalty or anything like that. But it's also true that the White House could totally use some improvements. So they're doing this on the East Wing, which will enable a bigger space. But Kaylee, you and Ari know better than anyone that the West Wing could also use some improvements. So I hope that if not Trump, then his successor also thinks about expanding that West Wing so that it can be have the space it needs to do the work that's important there.
Wait, you're talking about the flies that were the size of bats that used to fly around my press secretary office? Like maybe an exterminator first here.
Those were reporters.
Oh, yeah, that was Jim Acosta.
Very
yeah.
nice. Yeah. All right. Well, they are redoing the floors. I saw it recently. It looks amazing. That marble will just like blind you. It's so gleaming. It's great. Look, nobody's talking about in 1817 when they had to rebuild the whole White House after the British troops burned it to the ground.
Yeah.
I mean, that was expensive. So I was looking at the money, and particularly the Rose Garden. And Jacqueline Kennedy is famous for spending the most money for cherished changes to it. She had a budget of 50 grand back then. That's $544,000 today, quickly spent on refurbishing the private quarters. So there was a lot going on in other presidencies, as you've shown with some of the pictures and all that. He's taking this, he says, out of his own pocket. Now, I don't see anything in history where people are writing their own checks. Maybe I missed that. Maybe they were. But nobody was talking about it. They didn't report on it. I'd be curious to know. And by the way, with the Clintons, did they write anything? Because I know their foundation was raising a lot of money. Oh, too soon?
Yeah, they took the $28,000 that they had to return, taxpayer dollars worth of furniture. Trump is self-funding this. He also has some private donors, but no taxpayer dollars. So I think what the liberals are trying to say is thank you, Mr. President. Yeah. We will help them with that.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno.
Crazy.
Catch me and my
They're
co-hosts
crazy.
Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Out.
Okay, shot. Give me a second. Let me set it up. Okay, let's keep it moving.
We do want to bring some breaking news to your attention as we're learning from the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, about an 8th strike on what they're believing to be a narco-terrorist. This
Another
is
boat
taking place in the Eastern Pacific.
Are you
And
kidding me?
some of the images we're getting in here online.
Are they going to Alex?
This incident as, of course, another U.S.
Alex, don't get on no fucking boat. You're still
times
here.
on this boat in the Pacific, and
Don't get on no
more
fucking boat.
Information about it right now, very preliminary at this moment.
Alex
about
is
it.
from
And on social
Aruba.
media, Pete Hegseth said,
I don't want them
yesterday at
to
the direction
fucking
of the
attack
president, the
Alex.
Department of War conducted a lethal
Don't get on no
kinetic
fucking
strike
boat,
on a
Alex.
vessel being operated by a designated terrorist organization conducting narco trafficking in the Eastern Pacific. The vessel was known by our intelligence to be involved in illicit narcotics smuggling, was transiting along a known narco trafficking transit route and carrying narcotics. There
Yeah,
were
that
two
basketball court is stupid.
narco-terrorists aboard the
Like the
vessel
bowling
during the
alley,
strike,
I think that's fucking cool.
conducted in
I
international
don't care. I
waters.
think the
Both
bowling alley
terrorists
is
were
cool.
killed and no U.S. forces were harmed in the strike. Narco-terrorists
I think that's
intending
the only
to bring
thing like
poison to our
Nixon,
shores
you
will
know.
find no safe harbor anywhere in our hemisphere, just as Al
Rose
Qaeda
Garden,
waged
of
war
course,
on
is
our homeland. These
beautiful.
cartels are
Hello.
waging war on our border and our people. There will be no
But fucking
refuge
Obama
or
with his stupid
forgiveness,
basketball court.
only justice. That coming in from Pete
Trump
Hegseth
tore
on
that shit
social
down.
media talking about this. And as we had noted, this is the
He's like,
8th
fuck
such
this shit.
strike that we've been following, talking about it as it allegedly carrying drugs in the Eastern Pacific. The previous 7 happening in the Caribbean. So earlier this week, Hegseth also announced 3 alleged narco-terrorists killed in the U.S. strike during a drug smuggling vessel affiliated with a Colombia National Liberation.
This is crazy.
Army.
This is
President
like
Trump has chimed in on social media.
he's sending these
time
people
and
and
again
it's
about
like
these as well.
it's like a
This was the
suicide
post
mission.
that we're seeing on social media from
That's what it
Hegseth
is.
as well. So number 8, this
I
is the
wouldn't
8th
be
such
there like,
strike
yo,
there.
take
This
that
one,
drug.
though, taking place
Fuck
in
you,
the
I ain't going
Eastern
up there.
Pacific. I'm Andy Mack. We're back after this.
They'll be like, we'll kill you here or we'll kill you out there. Which one you were, how you want to die? Like, motherfucker. That's not nice. That's not nice. That's not a nice decision. Like, that's crazy. All right, let's keep it moving. Liberal hive mind. I think you got a back-to-back on this one.
Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Well, I guess you get what you pay for. If you spend decades buying votes with handouts, training people to believe that the taxpayer owes them a lifestyle, Well, then you breed exactly what we're seeing right now. Entitlement at a level just honestly unheard of. Unimaginable levels of entitlement. And what's crazy is that these are the people who are saying America is such a terrible, evil, systemic, racist place. But imagine being a foreigner from a third world or developing country, looking at America and listening to these people who are now complaining as their EBT and SNAP and food stamps are now being withheld from them. Oh no, I'm not getting my $2,000 a month. I'm not getting my free money falling from the taxpayer's sky. What, you expect me to go get a job as an able-bodied young person? Screw that. I'm gonna go rob the store. Yeah, the cracks in the system, exposure to the rot, I guess, is now a byproduct of this failed Democrat shutdown strategy. All these important social programs, ooh, that cannot face cuts. Oh, 10,000 billion trillion people are gonna die if you do it. Clearly, the whole thing's getting freaking exposed. The model isn't to help people get back on their feet. No, it's to make dependency the Democrat brand. Pure entitlement. Responsibility is a last priority. The excuses come first. This shutdown is ripping the cover off, folks. And it's showing everybody just how upside down these social programs really are. Holy moly, do I have some viral videos to show you guys today. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll.
I remember when the Clintons tried to steal the furniture, the latest fuckers, and the silverware, too.
A bunch of people
Fucking
now realizing
Clintons.
that since the government shut down,
thieves.
they're unlikely to get their food stamps. I think people are receiving letters in the mail telling them their food stamps aren't coming anytime soon. And, well, here's the common denominator from a lot of the clips of people reacting to this news.
If 42 million people are at risk of not receiving their EBT benefits in the month of November, I don't think that the grocery store staff should be risking their lives for a bag of groceries.
Since they want to take food stamps away, I'm going to Walmart. I'm going to rack up any damn Walmart, throw this in the basket, move, get the out my way. I'm not paying for a damn thing.
Let me not get my food stamps. I'm going back to stealing. I don't care. If you leave your car unlocked in the middle of the night, lock it. If I don't get no food stamps, best believe me and mine's gonna eat regardless.
Donald motherfucking Orange Man J. Trump. I'm gonna tell you just like this. What the fuck you mean? Who ain't getting that goddamn food stamps in goddamn November? Cause I'm getting my goddamn shit. I don't know about the rest of you motherfuckers, but I'm getting my shit. Cause I'm gonna tell you just like this on Jesus Lamar motherfucking Christ. I will be at motherfucking Walmart with my steel toes on and my motherfucking helmet, and I dare a try to stop me from walking out that motherfucking store with my grocery. Baby, you wanna see a human motherfucking bulldozer, baby? Cause that's what the fuck I'm gonna turn into. If you think you gonna stop me from leaving out that goddamn store with my motherfucking monthly groceries that I get every goddamn month.
I really don't advise y'all to try to chase after anybody that's trying to collect them some food for their family as they're walking out that door with that cart, cause you might around and don't make it home.
If they stop my food stamps, me and my man will be at the grocery store walking out with two big carts, and ain't bet nobody better do nothing because my man coming hard behind me, and it only take him one time to punch your.
Holy frickin' moly. There it is, plain as day. The response from people isn't, oh, well, you know, maybe I ought to work a little extra. Maybe I ought to get some work boots on, be productive, generate income to feed my family. Nothing about going to food banks or going to the church, asking for help from the community. No, just, I'm going to rob you. Gone from robbing the taxpayer to now robbing the Walmart. So much of this is not a safety net. It's not people who desperately need it, who cannot work, they're unable to work. The whole thing is a shakedown.
Her boobs looks like an ass.
Shakedown. And to add insult to injury, it's not just I'm gonna rob now. No, there's a threat that's being attached to it as well. If you try to stop me from stealing for my keys, I'm going to murder you, or my boyfriend's gonna punch you in the face. You better not try to stop me. I don't feel compassion for these people. I know the left feels endless compassion for these people. Really, it's all part of their strategy of keeping these people as loyal, dependent voters. But no, my thought immediately is this. Right to jail. Straight to frickin' jail. It's unbelievable. But the rod, again, is on full display. It's people making videos like that or this kind.
I got an email from EBT. I used to get $740 a month for my two kids. And we not getting EBT no more. They took the EBT. They saying I gotta work 20 hours a week. I'm not working for nobody. Get the fuck out of here. This is what Americans, taxpayer, work for us. They work for me. They gotta help me feed my fucking kids. Get the fuck out of here. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't be quitters now. Y'all been helping us all this time. Now y'all want to tap out. I want my EBT, yo. I want my EBT, and I'm not working for nobody. I'm a fucking boss. Y'all send all that money to Iraq, Ukraine. Y'all funding all these wars, but when it's time to help the Americans, y'all want to help us. I need my EBT, yo. I need my money, yo.
That right there is the exact issue. And of course, that's exactly
But he
what the
doesn't
Trump
go to work.
administration is trying to address with a lot of the Medicaid cuts. Able-bodied people should be
able-bodied
working,
people
but
should.
instead the
I
idea
can't
is,
fucking
I
work.
don't
I'm
work for
disabled.
you. No, the taxpayer
I have a
works
broken
for me
fucking
and
neck.
my
My
kids.
spine is
I'm
fucked.
never going to work. No, I'm just going to continue
I'm
sucking off
suffering.
the
I
teat of
leaned
the
over this.
taxpayer endlessly. And if you even suggest the word work, my immediate neurological response goes to steal anything but being a productive member of society. It's so far detached from the initial inception of these programs. You know, what was sold initially was a temporary
Yeah, if you're
bridge to work,
disabled,
right? You
it's
build a
definitely,
hammock, a little safety net,
disabled.
give you time to get back on your feet. But instead, it's a king-size bed that never requires you to move. It's abuse of the system, and at the end of the day, what it really is Democrat vote buying. And that's also what the shutdown is. It's not Democrat vote buying. No, it's Democrat blackmail using government programs. That's exactly what this whole Democrat playbook is on this issue. Yank the benefits purposely, manufacture maximum outrage, and then, of course, hope that it hurts President Trump. You'll notice a lot of these people, they're blaming President Trump. Trump's taking away my food stamps because they don't actually understand how government operates and what's happening. They just know that Trump's currently the president and they're not getting their food stamps. They probably don't even know the government's shut down, to be frank. And so they're just pointing to President Trump as the villain. And that's the strategy, right? Yank the benefits, cause pain, and then hope that you galvanize these people to show up to the polls. A lot of them are low propensity voters, and so the hope is to get people who wouldn't have otherwise voted in the 2026 midterms to vote because, oh, Donald Trump is taking away your free money. It's all about cultivating dependency and then weaponizing said dependency, weaponizing it on command. This shutdown, man, I mean, it's exposing the rot. The scams are surfacing. Suddenly you're hearing about ghost dependence, the off-the-books side cash with zero income paperwork. Households playing the system at every angle for the maximum payout. And when the money pauses, well, I guess suddenly the mask drops, right? Out comes the real attitude, pay me or I'll take it. Again, that's not social insurance, that's not a safety net, that is taxpayer hostage taking. When's enough gonna be enough? And of course, this fits in perfectly with some viral clips that we were covering, I don't know, probably like 4 or 5 months ago, where we encountered this one individual who was stealing professionally, right? Robbing Walmarts and Targets, wearing designer glasses. Then it turns out that she was getting all kinds of government benefits. Zero income, oh, I make no money. I set up a whole situation, no man in the house, all kinds of kids, getting all kinds of money from the taxpayer, and then subsidizing that money. Not by working, no, because working would make me ineligible probably for a lot of these benefits, so instead I steal on the side. What a portfolio. Taxpayer money in one pocket, stolen cosmetic products in the other pocket. It's a disgrace, and it's an insult to people who are actually struggling and working their behinds off to actually make ends meet. The ones filling the trucks, stocking the shelves, running the forklifts, people working for everything they have, people who have to budget.
They work for me.
To see this kind of entitlement. And again, imagine being from another country, a developing nation, and looking through the window and seeing this in America. It's a verifiable joke. And it's a joke created by the Democrats. An entire broken system. They pull on your heartstrings and say, ooh, the peoples, ooh, the peoples. These people? Give me a break. They should all be cut off. Get a damn job. A functioning country should never bargain with entitlement tantrums. A proper country would protect its taxpayers, would draw logical boundaries, would restore dignity instead of enabling dependence and entitlement. The Democrats pretend as if they've got a moral mandate, right? But look at the reality. Look at the rot beneath the surface. Look at what they're enabling. It's unbelievable, and don't be gaslit into thinking, oh, it's just an extreme minority. No, it's widespread fraud and entitlement, and it shouldn't be accepted. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.
That is wild. All right, let's keep it going. Let's go to another one.
Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. So I guess the question to start this video off is, what won't the Democrats politicize? If Donald Trump did it, then it's inherently bad, it's disgusting, it's breaking norms, it's an atrocity. No matter what this president does, it's bad. He ends a war, and they find a way to spin it. And in this case, the president himself, as well as private donors, pull their resources together to create a beautiful addition to the White House, an absolutely astoundingly beautiful grand ballroom, and the taxpayers are not footing the bill. And instead of shutting up, the Dems just have to politicize it. Oh, it's disgusting. What a mockery. He's destroying the White House. As well as so many other stupid talking points. Well, I want to interject in this conversation a little bit and add some perspective and come in with some facts. But before we get into any of that, this video is actually brought to you guys by a sponsor, so let's play that clip. This video is brought to you by Ground News. Folks, you've heard me say it before and I'll say it again. Ground News is the best news aggregator on Spot tool that essentially stories that the media, the best macro news website, their vantage plan. It's happening, the president's building a ballroom, and apparently that triggers the left. Take a look at what they're saying at The View.
You're not going to like what we're about to tell you, because you know who is still bulldozing ahead with building a White House ballroom that no one voted for, no one asked for, and once again, it's promises made and promises broken.
Right behind us, we're building a ballroom. They've wanted a ballroom for 150 years, and I'm giving that honor to this wonderful place. Right on the other side, you have a lot of construction going on, which you might hear periodically. You're going to see a ballroom the likes of which I don't think it'll be topped.
Okay. Okay. That is not your building. You
Correct.
don't own that building. That would be like me going over to Trump Tower and saying I'm going to build a disco. You know, they've wanted a disco in Trump Tower for hundreds of years. And so, I mean, come on. Man,
That makes no sense.
You don't own that building. That is the
That made no
people's
sense.
building. You don't own it.
Let's sing it.
What? You don't own it. Take it down. You don't own it.
That's not his building. How dare you even touch the White House? Of course, as per usual, President Trump does something that many other presidents have done, by the way, and he's now apparently breaking tradition. But let's interject with the facts here. In 1902, Theodore Roosevelt builds the West Wing. In 1909, William Howard Taft adds the first Oval Office during the West Wing expansion. In 1933, FDR adds a second floor to the West Wing, relocates the Oval Office to its current spot, and completes the East Wing, as well as building an indoor pool. In 1948, Harry Truman guts and rebuilds the White House interior, preserving only the exterior walls. In 1970, Richard Nixon converts FDR's pool into a press briefing room and adds a bowling alley. In 2009, Barack Obama upgrades the tennis court to a full basketball court. And now President Trump builds a grand ballroom, which is privately funded, and it's an outrage. Oh, the horror. How stupid. Yeah, a real horror. Hillary Clinton tells us, oh, he's destroying the White House. But look at these renders. Does that look like the destruction of the
That
White
looks
House?
beautiful.
Get real for a second. That is insanely beautiful. This ballroom will go down in American history. Trump got some great American companies and private investors to pool their resources and give back to the nation, to give the nation something that will stand hopefully forever. It's something of unimaginable beauty that, of course, the Democrats will use when they're in office. I'm sure they're going to love it then, although they'll probably try to rename it or, do something just because, Orange Man. But now in the moment, they just have to talk smack. They've got a sickness, a derangement illness. They'll say anything. They'll twist this story in any way that they can. They've tried to convince people for a while now that actually Donald Trump's using tax dollars for this. Oh, while you guys aren't getting your Social Security checks, Trump is building the White House somehow.
Yeah,
That's continuing.
with bleachers,
Yeah,
too.
Just, forgot to mention
Full
that it's
basketball
privately
court
funded.
with bleachers.
Well, here's the latest talking point.
As I mentioned on this program a couple weeks ago, I think it's fairly grotesque to begin construction, just the optics of beginning construction on a grand ballroom at a time when the government is shut down, inflation is still high, costs are still high. We saw new
the
economic
taxpayers is not
indicators
coming
coming out
taxpayer money.
today, actually showing that middle and lower income Americans are falling behind in car payments, which is an early indicator. So I think it's, even if you believe that this was a good idea, I would say the timing is horrible. And look, personally, it was a little shocking to see those images, having worked in the White House. I mean, there's so much beauty and history in the East Wing. So it's sad to see that, that huge hole there. And I would just mention that some of the other things, the changes that Scott mentioned, those were additions. This is a subtraction, I guess, in an addition, but it really changes, I think, in many ways, what the people's house is supposed to be about, which is not necessarily a grand ballroom with crystal chandeliers, but it's about, the American people.
Make that shit more grand.
I just also think the construction timing is really just gross.
It's, quote, fairly grotesque to begin construction while the government is closed. Construction during a shutdown. Yeah, well, who shut it down? Trump? No, of course not. It was you morons. Not to mention, you know what's really grotesque? Shutting down the government for Chuck Schumer's little hopeful career redemption play for your pathetic No Kings performance. That was disgusting. The president has schedules. He's got contracts. What, he's supposed to just throw it all in the air, dump it in the trash just because Democrats decided to shut down the government? How idiotic is that? And again, speaking of disgusting, speaking of what people should actually be outraged by, how about Barack Obama's failed presidential library? That horrible, ugly, brutalist monolith. It's a freaking shrine to Satan. Yeah, apparently that's beautiful. Ooh, this is beautiful, but this ballroom, that's ugly, disgusting. I want to puke. Talk about living in a backwards world. And again, you want to talk disgusting? Look no further than Gavin Newsom's California. Another clown who's jumping on the bandwagon here, mocking President Trump's ballroom renovation. Well, he's going on and on and on. Meanwhile, the Capitol renovation in California is costing taxpayers $1.1 billion.
Steel beams are up and construction is underway on the Capitol Annex project. The $1.1 billion construction and counting will eventually house the offices of lawmakers, the governor, and lieutenant governor. It'll cost about as much as Levi's Stadium in Santa Clara and more than the Golden One Center in Sacramento. But we still don't know why or how the money is being spent. The main way we're able to get information lately is through leaks. The latest, the new building will have private hallways for lawmakers, allowing them to avoid the public and media after they debate and vote in hearing rooms. Multiple sources told KCRA3 the leader of the state Senate, Mike McGuire, confirmed this to a room full of lobbyists earlier this month. He would not do an interview, but confirmed this in a statement. He called the hallways, quote, safe corridors, claiming they have them now in their temporary office building. He said they are, quote, designed to help ensure the safety and security of lawmakers, which is even more important today, given the events that unfolded on January 6th at our nation's Capitol building and the active threats public officials continue to face.
Where they're building secret tunnels so politicians can avoid scrutiny. Secret tunnels so politicians can avoid the public. No transparency, no accountability. Not to mention they're refusing to explain the actual expenses and where the money's going. You know what's grotesque? $1 billion bunker for politicians who don't want to face their voters in California. What won't the Democrats politicize, huh? But again, all these dishonest talking points, all this nonsense. The truth is, the White House has always evolved. Different presidents have either put their touch on the White House or they've done massive renovations. I think it's a stupid issue. I think the left-wing talking points here are obviously stupid. I'd even argue grotesque. And of course, I'd rather not take any lectures on construction, on infrastructure, from the people behind California's failed railroad system, their Capitol building renovation, or Barack Obama's presidential library. I think that's pretty fair, right? Anyways, that's what I got for you guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.
Pretty cool. Let's keep it moving.
I was just trying to clean up our neighbors off the streets. That's walking around. I was standing in a crosswalk. We cannot stand as New Yorkers for this to happen.
What the hell is going on in New York? What's wrong with society? What's wrong with the people? Look at this. Look. What the hell is this? Oh my God, Terry. Oh my God. Like, hell no. Oh, this is crazy. Let us let her get in front of the freaking vehicle. Like, what the fuck is wrong with these people? They're crazy. That's in New York. We don't live far from New York. Especially me and Terry. We don't live far from New York. Terry lives closer to New York than I do. But I'm closer to the city than he is. But look at this jungle. Like, all these people, they don't have jobs. They don't have a life. Like, why are they interfering with ICE operations? You know what I mean? So this is how you're gonna solve this issue, okay? You're gonna solve this issue real fast and real easy. You want to hear the solution? Bring back the draft. Bring back the draft and draft all these motherfuckers and put them in combat. Hey, they got a lot of free time and a lot of energy there, right? They're young, dumb, full of cum. Okay, let's put them in training and we'll draft them. That's it. Easy. That's next.
Matt Finn in Los Angeles with more. Matt.
Harris, the Justice Department says the illegal immigrant from Mexico is
you're closer to Albany than I am.
Ricardo Parias. He's in custody.
I'm closer to New York City than you are.
Agents say Parias was their target in an immigration enforcement yesterday near downtown LA. Agents say they boxed in the suspect's car and then he rammed his vehicle into two agents' cars, spun his tires, spewing smoke, and sent rubber flying into the air, hitting agents who also worried the car would dislodge and strike them. The police say Parias refused to comply. Ultimately, an agent opened fire, hitting Parias in the elbow. A bullet ricocheted and struck a U.S. Marshal. Both are expected to be okay. Now, if you take a look at the front driver tire of the suspect's car, in one of the pictures released by the feds, it appears the suspect spun his tire so rapidly, the front driver tire shredded into the ground. Activists gathered at the hospital where Parias and the officer were being treated. And even after this dangerous encounter, one activist seemed to encourage armed people to resist ICE.
They are not the only ones with guns in this city. They're not the only ones, and don't forget that. And I don't say that because we're calling for violence. I'm saying that because the people have every right to defend themselves against masked, unidentified gunmen with AR-15s and other military rifles.
What? That's
Parias
crazy.
Is a well-known TikToker, a big following, who trails agents and
documents
crazy. Immigration enforcement here in LA. Earlier this year, the suspect was recognized by LA City Council for his videos. And Harris, DHS was quick to point out that these dangerous attempts to evade arrest come after
I'm not high
sanctuary
enough. I rolled
politicians
my second
held
joint.
webinars and provided resources on how to resist ICE. Harris.
All right, Matt, thank you. I have something else to add to this, and this is new. Congressman Robert Garcia, Democrat out of California, at a news conference has announced that there is a plan to launch a master ICE tracker on their website. So this would be a state, like a congressional website, if you will, with a master ICE tracker on the website. The name again, Congressman Robert Garcia, a Democrat out of California. So mix in that with all the threats against ICE agents and anybody around them, whether it's local law enforcement. You heard Tom Homan say it on this program last week. Anybody who's near them is in danger when people come after those federal agents, especially if they have to defend themselves. Can you even imagine the position this puts them in for doing their jobs. And now you're going to track them. In addition to doxing them and their families, this is a lot. Well, all of the violence in Los Angeles is just the latest in a string of attacks on federal immigration enforcement.
That's funny, Terry.
Earlier this month, rioters in Chicago threw bottles and rocks and smoke
I'm
bombs
serious.
at agents.
Bring back the draft.
Riots began after two illegal
Bring back the
aliens
draft.
ran their car
And draft
into
all
agents'
these
vehicles. So this is the
motherfuckers
thing.
into
And
the
remember,
military.
they're calling it deadly force. If you ram your car
And have
into
them all
somebody and
protect and
potentially
serve.
kill them.
Like,
Last month, a
us
sniper
Americans.
killed 2 ICE
Send them all
detainees
to
and
Iraq.
shot another after opening fire at that
Send them to
Dallas
Ukraine.
facility, with the goal, apparent goal,
Since
of
they love
killing agents
Ukraine, right?
around at the scene.
And they
had
love
the phrase
Palestine.
Anti-ICE
Send them to
written
both
right
places.
on that bullet casing. Over the summer, a rioter appeared to fire a gun during a chaotic raid on a cannabis farm in California. Agents were forced to use smoke bombs when the crowd got more and more violent. And sadly, that's far from an
When
exhaustive
they had
list.
minors.
But instead of urging de-escalation, many on the left
Minor
are continuing
immigrant.
their dangerous rhetoric. Republican Senator Mark Wayne Mullen of the great state of Oklahoma, member of the Armed Services Committee. Look, Senator, I don't know if you just heard, but when you add in on a congressional website, I would assume this Robert Garcia knows how this looks, a tracker on ICE agents. Right. I mean, that's like a hit list.
Yeah, and Harris Garcia doesn't have the ability to track these ICE agents, but what he's saying is reckless rhetoric, which is continuously coming from the left. I mean, they're calling for violence. They're not even hiding it. And all they do is they make the case for President Trump to send the National Guard in. Remember, National Guard has the ability to protect the assets of the federal government. They're not on the streets arresting people, but they can protect the federal assets. Humans are federal assets. These ICE agents are federal assets to the United States. They are hunting federal fugitives, which are illegals. They're not state fugitives, they're federal fugitives. They have the right to go out there and arrest. At the same time, the property, the vehicles, the property, and the personnel, National Guard has the right to protect. And they're following right into why President Trump is deploying National Guard. And it's absurd what they're trying to do here.
Yeah. You know what? I do want to put a fine point on it. So Congressman Robert Garcia is lying when he says he can track people who work with ICE. Well, I
That's
guess
absolutely true.
That's when a lie is a blessing. But what you're saying is he's willing to put that false information out there and make people afraid or potentially incite them to do something dangerous to someone else. I mean, it's disgusting.
It is. Now, what he could do is he could put ICE facilities on his website, which isn't overly known. A lot of times they don't have they don't have DHS or ICE facility on the outside of it. There's a lot of FBI headquarters, Secret Service.
So is it okay if he does that?
The city. No, it's absolutely not. It becomes a national security, and we would have to do. I would suggest, I'm in the Senate, but I would suggest the House to hold him accountable if he were to ever do anything like that, and especially if harm were to come to any infrastructure or personnel that works in the facility that he would expose.
Wow. All right, we'll move to this. A chaotic and potentially dangerous scene right here in New York City when protesters decided to clash with ICE agents during an operation targeting the sale of counterfeit goods and other crimes. Democrats quickly tore into ICE at a hasty planned pop-up news conference.
This wasn't about public safety. This was about targeting communities. And so we want people to be clear, as much as we can continue to say, none of this is about public safety. It is about fear and chaos.
There is no excuse for sending military-style vehicles and a national law enforcement.
What the hell's wrong with his hands?
For street vendors.
What's wrong with his hand?
Mayoral candidates also had something to say about it. Democrat, socialist, and communist Zoran Mamdani blamed the Trump administration's authoritarian theatrics. Those are his words. Independent Andrew Cuomo called it an abuse of federal power and more about fear than justice. Those are his words. Republican Curtis Sliwa's campaign said organized counterfeit rings are hurting law-abiding merchants. Wow. What an interesting debate the next one will be. Now, back to you, Senator. What do you say about this? I mean, there's a long list of the crimes, the people that they were going after. It's not hard to trace why ICE showed up.
Well, Harris, either we're a nation of laws or we're not. Selling counterfeit merchandise is illegal. Not to mention, it's stealing revenue from the company itself, plus tax revenue from the municipality to which it's being sold. Once again, the federal agencies were doing their job. By the way, Secret Service actually has a role in going after counterfeit merchandise too, not much less that the individual themselves is illegal. They are federal fugitives. And if we're not going to enforce a nation of laws, then we become a lawless nation. And I don't think anybody wants that. This is why the Democrats' popularity with the American people is at the lowest it's ever been, because they can't rationalize their position. They're more interested in protecting criminals than they are protecting law-abiding citizens in their own community.
Look, I'm looking at the people who are gathered around in this video and in many others that we see. You know, they're willing to get physical with these agents. And you want to know why it looks like they sat down with so many people. Tom Homan has told me, and from DHS, their representatives have told me that they have to have larger numbers now because of the physicality that's pressed upon them. Your last quick word.
Which, once again, this makes the point why President Trump needs to deploy these National Guard members. Even though I hate it for disrupting the National Guard members themselves, there is a federal role, and we have seen this through the civil rights movement, all the way with JFK, LBJ. We've seen it repeat in history before, where National Guard has been used to protect federal agents and federal property in time of disturbance. This is why there probably has to be a larger deployment of National Guard to protect federal agents from doing their job, or to be able to let them do their job.
Senator Mullen, thank you for being in focus.
Thank you, Harris.
I'm Steve Ducey.
All right, let's keep it moving.
You probably hear the beautiful sound of construction to the back. You hear that sound? Oh, that's music to my ears. I love that sound. It reminds me of money.
Donald Trump jackhammering his way into history.
You don't own it. Take you behind to another town.
Very good. Y'all better stay the out of my way in these stores. I'm walking out with carts and I'm not paying for Trump, if you won't start looting, what's gonna happen? I'm gonna be stealing like it ain't no tomorrow.
The food stamp hostage crisis is making everyone crazy.
You know what happened? Women do this.
Well, Gayle King has done it again, y'all. She's over here with them dude from the news station. I'm confused, Gayle.
Did I get Gayle King in trouble? Plus...
Why don't you come on, Jeff, and order fries? Green, you can bring your binder.
Oh, Lord. This is going to be a good episode. This is Joy.
You hear that?
You probably hear the beautiful sound of construction to the back. You hear that sound? Oh, that's music to my ears. I love that sound. Other people don't like it. I love it, Josh. I think when I hear that sound, it reminds me of money.
If you live in D.C., get used to those sweet, sweet, soothing sounds of demolition. The president's building the biggest and most beautiful ballroom in the world, and it's free. Trump and donors put up the money. And even though she lives in New York, it keeps Mika up at night.
It is hard to watch that, and it's hard to believe that any president could destroy the White House. To take literally a wrecking ball to the White House, it's grotesque. Just grotesque.
I can't.
The ladies of The View tried drowning out the jackhammers with their pipes.
You don't own that building. That is the people's building. You don't own it. You don't own it. You cannot take it down. You don't own it. Take you behind to another town.
Hillary says it's not his house, it's your house, and he's destroying it. Hillary just called Trump a homewrecker. When her husband Bill was termed out, Hillary absconded with $30,000 of White House furniture. She even took the silverware. Nothing's more grotesque than what Bill Clinton did to that White House. And what's Trump destroying? Has Hillary not seen the new marble floors?
Did you notice the white marble floor that was put there? That was made out of Home Depot tiles, about 1 foot by 1 foot. They were all broken, about 30 years old. and I replaced it with book-matched marble, paid for by your friend, President Trump.
White House renovations aren't anything new. Presidents have been fixing up the White House for over 100 years. Teddy Roosevelt built the West Wing from scratch. FDR added an entire second floor and then put in an indoor swimming pool.
Wow.
The presidents that followed loved it. Kennedy liked a skinny dip.
That was the swimming pool where Jackie would say, I hear women inside. Are women inside? Quite a famous, I'm not saying anything. This was a part of a movie. And the Secret Service said, no, ma'am, there's no women inside, ma'am. I'm sorry, ma'am, you're going to have to move along. But I hear women inside. No, ma'am, you'll have to move along, ma'am. So that was the famous swimming pool.
JFK left the pool so scandalized that Nixon filled it with concrete and turned it into the briefing room. Is that why they call it the press pool? We don't know. But Nixon left his mark. He put in a bowling alley in the basement. Truman gutted the whole White House, gutted it. And he slept across the street while they ripped the place up. Barry put a basketball court right on top of where Bush the elder played tennis. Michelle hated Barack playing ball.
I'm always like, be careful playing basketball. You shouldn't be playing now. You now have a real important job. And literally, he's coming in with a gauze thing on his lip. He needed like 30-something stitches. I mean, his lip was, I saw it. He had some major speech on Monday. And I was like, this is what I'm saying. You're playing like you're 10 and now your lip is split.
Taxpayers paid for every stitch on Barry's lip. Some of Biden's people are really mad Trump's doing construction.
There's no greater metaphor right now than what's happening right now in this country than watching Donald Trump take a wrecking ball to the White House. Like the powers that are in the DC are not standing up. They're acting as if they're powerless.
Biden painted a trans flag over the Truman balcony and transgenders flashing their chesticles on the lawn. A nice classy ballroom will class the place up after what Biden and Hunter did to it. Biden brought construction guys to the White House to do the Situation Room and then blamed them for the cocaine. Trump's bringing in construction guys. He's haggling about the price and then hanging out with them after a hard day's work. The left's glum because Trump's so unconstrained. They can't control him. And his ambition, his vision, his confidence are a constant reminder of the Biden presidency's impotence. The left struggling over the fact that Trump's a consequential president, so consequential that he's not only rewiring world trade, cutting historic peace deals, he's leaving a lasting physical legacy right on top of the White House that no one will ever be able to take away. In fact, future Democrat presidents, if there ever are any, will enjoy it.
No.
They've realized that Biden squandered his executive power, and now that Trump's flexing his, the last 4 years just seems like a waste of time. It's not just the White House. DC's looking so good, Trump's taking out the beast for some sightseeing.
I hop in the beast and I tell the Secret Service, let's drive around town. The place is looking much. The grass is good. The fences are down. There's no tents. There's no anything. This place is looking really good.
Everybody needs to calm down about the big, beautiful ballroom. It'll be tasteful. It's not going to look fugly like Obama's presidential library.
You're building your ballroom right now. They're also building the Obama Presidential Library. I'm wondering if you've
He needs
seen.
help.
Have you seen pictures of the architecture and
Yeah,
what
I
do you think
did.
of it?
It's not too pretty. No, but it's closed. It's stopped. They ran out of money. They're stuck. And he wanted only women and DEI to build it. Well, that's what they got.
Thank God Barry only put in a basketball court. Can you imagine what kind of ghastly monstrosity he would have undertaken? Democrats can't even get their own house in order. They shouldn't be pointing fingers at 47. If anything's being demolished, it's the Democrat Party. Look what happened to James Carville.
I know that you're so appalled by this, but I got to tell you, they're in Louisiana. I ride in the Mardi Gras parade, carnival, beats, soapy. You know what happens? Women do this. You know what I do? I throw them beats.
Do you want to be in a house with Carville or Stephen Miller?
That's what was
Carville,
weird.
the not so crazy uncle, still can't believe Democrats want boys changing in girls' locker rooms.
What bull? I have a lot of friends that have daughters that play soccer, play volleyball, run track, play softball. You know what their parents don't want them doing for good reason is competing with males. You understand what you're doing to try to some kind of cheap political point with a bunch of left-wing zombies is you're ruining the women that work their asses off.
Trump's big, beautiful ballroom will have a men's room and a ladies' room. If Gavin's the next president, he can add a trans bathroom. It's the chief executive's prerogative. Democrats are more focused on trans than on biology and beauty. Even CBS thinks they've lost it.
2 out of 3 Americans have an unfavorable view of the party that you caucus with. Yes. How did that happen?
Okay, I'll tell you.
Why do they not like you and trust you right now?
This country faces many crises. And I think a lot of working class people said, look, Trump is crazy. He lies all the time, but at least he's going to do something. Where are the Democrats?
Bernie's asking the right questions. Where are the Democrats? Barack's henpecked in Hawaii and only comes out to stab Joe in the back. And if Hunter ever sees the cross-legged Messiah, his lip's going to have another stitch. After Obama walked Joe off that stage during the Hollywood fundraiser, Hunter told Jonathan Karl, quote, I almost jumped up on the stage and said, don't ever effing do that to the president of the United States again. That really, really, really bleeped me off. The party may have turned on Joe Biden, but there are a lot of Hunter Biden Democrats ready for war. The young bare-knuckle brawlers, the kind of people who years ago would have challenged you to a duel. A Democrat in Texas saying this, if they go low, I'm going to the gutter. My brother was murdered. My aunt was murdered. My cousin was murdered. My dad blew his brains out. Sometimes ish is ugly, and you got to be able to fight ugly. Binder's still riding with Biden. She's what you call a Hunter Biden Democrat, and she's ready to light it up.
In this moment, it is
What the hell's wrong with her hair?
Our democracy is hanging by a thread. Some people would say we're already an authoritarian regime.
What is that?
I need to see teeth. I need to see fire.
What are you wearing
The
this
DEI
time?
revenge tour's on. She's throwing the whole party under the electric school bus, and she's blaming, you guessed it, the whites.
Oh
For
no!
me, as a black woman, as a person
Oh
who's also
Lord!
LGBTQ, I feel
Oh Lord!
as if those communities that I am part of largely get taken for granted. It is not the big tent
Oh
party
Lord!
that
You and your DEI hire.
loved and enjoyed and was part of and fought for.
Binder, who never misses an opportunity to remind you she's black
Hey,
and
Rob.
LGBTQ
What's up, man?
says whites still can't see race.
I'm here every day, Rob,
Leadership,
at
the
7:30.
Democratic Party side of things, they're actually throwing people under the bus who
Remember,
are vulnerable
tomorrow I'll
and
be
need
here with
protection. As a
Tyson.
black woman
Tyson
who
the Truth
has
will be
walked
here
through the walls
tomorrow
of
at
the White
7:30
House and been
p.m.
part of this party for a very long
Miss it.
time, we get forgotten, and that by large part the Democratic Party does not see us.
Binder's mad at Nancy and Chuck for cooing Biden because she was collateral damage. And now that Trump's outlawed DEI, Binder's been hung out to dry. She can't get a job. Democrat donors won't hire her because she's the face of the cover-up, and corporate America won't pay her because she's not that smart. The only way her bread gets buttered is by the Bidens. That's why she still sounds like Biden's press secretary.
I saw a guy who I had not seen backstage at the benefit that I did. It seemed like a dramatically different person.
No one is saying that he didn't age. I'm talking about, did he have the questions that I was getting, the mental acuity? Was he able to govern? And the man that I saw nearly every day was someone who was engaging.
We tried asking Binder, are you sure? But she wouldn't talk to us.
Hey, Kareem. Johnny from Fox, how are you? Why would you come on Jeff and Water Prime Time? Kareem, you can bring your binder.
We can't blame her for not wanting to talk to Johnny. Click here.
That's crazy. Let's keep it moving.
President Trump is breaking ground on the White House Grand Ballroom this week. There's been a steady flow of criticism, though, for all the renovations. Our senior White House correspondent, Peter Ducey, is reporting live from the North Lawn with all of that. Hi, Peter.
And Aisha, the funny part about this is we didn't hear much about preserving the actual facade of the East Wing until, of course, the walls started coming down. And now a quick sampling of some of the reaction from the left. Hillary Clinton says, it's not his house, it's your house, and he's destroying it. Gavin Newsom writes, ripping apart the White House just like he's ripping apart the Constitution. And then on the floor of the Senate, Chuck Schumer offered this.
What's galling is Republicans being okay with people like Kristi Noem getting a private jet, Donald Trump getting a fancy, expensive new ballroom, Argentina getting $40 billion bailout, but then saying Americans don't deserve cheaper health care. That is what's galling.
But the White House Communications Director Stephen Chung writes, construction has always been a part of the evolution of the White House. Losers who are quick to criticize need to stop their pearl clutching and understand that building needs to be modernized. Otherwise, you'd just be living in the past. His counterpart, Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, says this.
If you talk to journalists who have covered the White House for decades, as I do here,
It's
every
gonna be
single day, they
beautiful.
will also tell you that administration after administration have publicly and privately spoken about the need for a larger event space. So while many presidents have privately dreamt about this, it's President Trump who is actually doing something about it. And he is the builder in chief.
And it's worth pointing out that the Democrats who are criticizing this ballroom project that is privately funded can use
think
the
it's gonna be
ballroom
very beautiful.
themselves. All Democrats have to do is win the White House. Aisha?
Oh, just a small feat. Peter Ducey, thank you very much.
Hey, Sean Hannity
That's not
here.
going to
Hey,
be
click
easy
here
for
to
them for like the
subscribe.
next. It's going to be hard for them to get back in the White House. Let's keep it moving.
We just have some breaking news since Mark Stone has reported that. So this has just come from the White House, folks, and it has also been posted from Donald Trump's Truth Social account. But there's also a statement from the White House. It says the U.S. Department of the Treasury's Office of Foreign Assets Control is imposing further sanctions as a result of Russia's lack of serious commitment to a peace process to end the war in Ukraine. Today's actions increase pressure on Russia's energy sector and degrade the Kremlin's ability to raise revenue for its war machine and support its weakened economy. The United States will still continue to advocate for a peaceful resolution to the war, and a permanent peace depends entirely on Russia's willingness to negotiate in good faith. Treasury will continue to use its authorities in support of a peace process. So there are added sanctions for major Russian oil companies and calls on Moscow to immediately agree to a ceasefire. So that just in from the White House, that's ahead of Mark Rutte's meeting there with Donald Trump, which I'm sure has been discussed.
All right, let's keep it moving. We're doing good.
Well, MSNBC host and former White House press secretary Jen Psaki taking major flack after some comments about Vice President J.D. Vance and suggesting the second lady is afraid of him. Watch.
I think the little Manchurian candidate, J.D. Vance, wants to be president more than anything else. Yeah. I always wonder what's going on in the mind of his wife. Like, are you okay? Please blink 4 times.
Yes.
We'll come over here. We'll save you. And that he's willing to do anything to get there. And that your whole iteration you just outlined, I mean, he's scarier in certain ways.
Psaki got a ton of criticism with users on X saying those comments were disgusting, an insult to women who are in actual bad marriages, and that she's not a good person at all. This, too, during Domestic Violence Awareness Month, Kaylee. So I think it strikes as particularly tone deaf and, frankly, classless. What say you?
Yeah, how dare Jen Psaki question the marriage of the Vances? Usha Vance is an incredibly smart woman. She graduated from Yale University. Oh, wait, but she also graduated from Yale Law School as well. She clerked for Chief Justice John Roberts.
In Connecticut.
She clerked for Justice Kavanaugh. She's extraordinarily smart and is capable of making her own decisions. And the decision she chose was to marry J.D. Vance, a
I should
highly
go pass
accomplished
by
person.
Yale.
Here's what Usha said about J.D. Vance.
Go have lunch over
at
there.
the RNC. He said, when J.D. met me, Usha said, he approached our
Right,
differences with
tomorrow.
curiosity and enthusiasm. She talked about how he learned to cook from her Indian mother. And she said, before I knew it, he'd become an integral part of my family, a person I could not imagine living without. They have a beautiful family. But why did Jen Psaki attack Usha? First, she's a strong woman. But second, here is why. The left fears the couple you are looking at.
That's
They
right.
fear them. The New York Times profiled several young voters who voted for Trump but previously had voted Democratic. Let me just share with you quickly. One said, I was so impressed by J.D. Vance, the way he carried himself, how normal he appeared. Another young voter told the New York Times, I made the decision to vote Trump when I saw J.D. Vance's interview with the New York Times. He's the future of the Republican Party. Finally, a 21-year-old man, I was really impressed with J.D. Vance, especially during the debate. They changed their votes because of that couple. That's a powerhouse couple. Watch out, Jen Psaki.
And Harris, I'm curious because it seems to me what we're seeing is yet again the hypocrisy from those on the left. What happened to building up women or women having agency, women having the ability to form their own identities? I thought that was rammed down our throats because Republicans don't know that, according to people like Jen Psaki and Hillary Clinton. And yet here she is demeaning one of the most accomplished women that younger women can look up to and reducing her to a caricature. Shame on her.
Well, look, I mean, I don't think that this is simply about gender. I think it's also about race.
Yeah, I have the same problems, Rob,
The horrible
when
things
it
that
comes
people say
to notifications.
about those on the right.
Like some of the channels
not
that
a
I'm
big enough
subscribed
tent.
to, I don't even get the
Included, there are not
notifications.
enough women
I'm
doing
like, what
this.
the
There are not
fuck?
enough people of color doing this, so on and so forth.
Yeah,
And
they're back
having
to
an
their
age
old
fight
habits.
within the Democrat Party right now. He's a young man. He would be a young candidate. She's a person of diversity by her background and ethnicity. You put those two things together, and yeah, that takes away some of the Democrat narrative to tear down the right, but it also does something else. As you were talking about those young people who maybe jumped gates and like, oh, I think I want to go and vote for this person now. They understand affordability better than maybe anybody in the political landscape today. Have you read the book he wrote about his childhood? Like, he really gets what it means to be poor. She really understands what it means to watch watch someone love someone who's trying to get their arms around their dream, come from nothing. She saw him at the beginning, you guys.
Yep.
That's amazing. And where he went to an Ivy League school and all of that, she's been there for the whole ride.
Yep.
They bring something that we currently don't even have in politics today. It'll be fascinating. I say you're running and say it often, J.D. Vance. You're making the left nervous.
Ari, the White House released a statement. I'll read it to you in a moment. It's from Stephen Chung, and he talked about Psaki. He said, quote, Jen Psaki must be transferring her own personal issues onto others. She is I don't know if I can say that on air, who has no comprehension of the truth and has to overcompensate for her lack of talent by saying untrue things. Circle back on that, moron.
Damn.
Yeah, I just wish, and maybe I'm naive, but I think anybody who has had the honor of working in the White House, I just think when you leave, conduct yourself with dignity.
I know,
you
right?
miss the spotlight that badly that you have to engage in such provocations because you need to be the center of people's attention.
Yeah.
And I would hope people are more mature than that. And clearly, in this instance, she showed she's not.
They're not
But
mature.
there's a problem with pundits in that they push provocation as opposed to merit or wisdom or judgment. Educate people. But the other problem the Democrats have here is their a tendency to accuse Republicans of the worst. So she's saying J.D. Violent is personally violent. J.D. Vance is personally violent. The Democrats say Republicans are Nazis, Hitler. I mean, they keep speaking to the extremes and wonder why they lose the middle of the country. It's
Because
focused
they're
on
so
their
full of shit.
economics as opposed to these Democrat provocations they run to an extreme. They're burying themselves when they make
Crazy,
these
man.
accusations.
Ari, I could not agree more. I think we have a real problem with Democrat hate, and Democrats have a problem because that hatred is just oozing out from every corner.
Mhm.
It's not
And it
healthy to
stinks.
wish anyone else's marriage isn't good. I mean, I am blessed to be in a wonderful marriage. I want everyone else to also be in a wonderful marriage, and that doesn't stop at a political party line. And people don't want to vote for people who do wish harm on a marriage or do speak so negatively. But anyone who knows JD and Usha know they have a beautiful marriage. It's also silly because it's been famously committed to film. Hillbilly Elegy goes through it.
Books, I mean, come on.
They're pretty open and honest
Yeah.
about it. So it was an unwise political move of projection, I think.
That's right. Hey, everyone. I'm Emily Campagno.
All right,
Catch
Emily
me and my
Campagno.
co-host Harris Faulkner and
All right, we're going to keep it moving. We're doing very good.
looking for the person who abandoned a newborn baby at Penn Station.
That's right. And NYPD has just released some new images of a person of interest. Good Day's Briella Tomasetti joins us now with what we know. Briella, good morning.
Yeah, Dana Rosanna, like you said, those images just coming into our newsroom. Police announcing that they are looking for this woman wanted for questioning in connection with endangering the welfare of a child. Now, I want to stress it's unclear if this is the person who left the baby at Penn Station during the morning rush hour yesterday. Police have not confirmed that information with us, but it is the first lead we are getting in this case. And again, take a closer look at your screens. This is the woman again, wanted for questioning, seen in video released by NYPD Crime Stoppers, walking down a busy street, holding a baby wrapped in a blanket. Officers from the NYPD's Midtown South Precinct responded to an anonymous 911 call just before 9:30 yesterday morning, reporting an infant at the 34th Street Penn Station stop. The newborn baby was found conscious and alert near a staircase that leads to the northbound 1 train platform with her umbilical cord still attached. The baby was brought to Bellevue Hospital, where she was last listed in stable condition. Investigators are combing through the station's security footage and conducting interviews to try and find any potential leads. We again just got one there, but so far the miracle discovery remains sort of a mystery. Here's what riders had to say about it.
That's crazy.
It's just horrible. I don't know how someone could just leave a baby out here in the middle of the subway where who knows what happens around here. It's just awful.
The rats.
Whoever left the baby probably needs a lot of love and support, because that's, I'm sure, not an easy decision.
Not everybody's equipped to be a parent nowadays.
But why she didn't take the baby to the firehouse?
That's an unfortunate news. I mean, I was always told that if you can't have a baby, there's places where you can take the baby to. Police station, fire station, shelters.
According to New York state law, abandoning a child under 14 years old is a felony, but under the Abandoned Infant Protection Act, parents can surrender an infant younger than 30 days old without facing any criminal charges as long as the baby is left safely at a designated safe haven, just like that commuter said, a hospital, police precinct, or fire station. To reiterate, nobody has claimed the baby. So far, police have not made any arrests, but this woman behind me in this photo is wanted for questioning. Dana Rosanna, back to you.
Okay, well, it's a pretty good photo if that's her. Thank you so much, Briella.
That's creepy. All right, let's keep it moving. What the fuck, man? This world is wild.
Bus! 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 Get down!
Oh, shit.
Dogs on the bike. Dogs on the bike. Let me see your hands! Down! Get down right now!
Well, that is the moment North Las Vegas police took down a man they say is responsible for a valley-wide shooting spree. The department just releasing that video about an hour ago after the 80s investigators found out about this man's arrest. Rob. Documents we obtained reveal police suspect that person shot a 13-year-old walking home from school, several North Las Vegas police buildings, Las Vegas casinos, and several homes. 36-year-old Hector Rodriguez is behind what detectives are calling a shooting spree. That spree, including this building, the North Las Vegas Police Department's Traffic Bureau. It was shot 3 times last month, and no one was hurt in those shootings. Now, after that building was shot for the 3rd time, a 13-year-old walking home from school was shot near Tropical Parkway in Pecos. Police asked for help finding a car involved in that shooting 5 days later, but never actually said the victim was a child. Now, that child survived, and at the time, police called it random. We've now learned police actually arrested Rodriguez in late September, but they only announced it after we first reported it online today. Documents we obtained revealing the gun police confiscated from him is now connected to shootings at the Clark County Family Court, the North Las Vegas VA, the Wynn, and Mandalay Bay. Now, that shooting may be, you might remember it, we're showing you the W here, because that building is where Metro Police say someone shot at in mid-September, shattering windows, and someone on the other side was hurt. Detectives now believe Rodriguez is connected to all of these shootings. His criminal case is now paused as he undergoes a competency hearing, meaning he may not understand the charges against him. He's not expected in court until next month.
Give me 1 second. I got a couple of add-ons. So let me work on these add-ons. I do got a few add-ons. So I truly apologize. The show is going to go on. But I like to watch these videos with you guys. because, like I said, this is the first time I'm watching it on here. Let me see. Okay. Yeah, I got 2 add-ons here, so let me work on it. Get it all set up and get them all resized. You know the airplane that I reported yesterday? Remember the airplane that got struck and that had to be rerouted, I guess, to like Utah or something for emergency landing? You know, you know how we saw the damage and it busted out the windshield. It was like it was really traumatic. It was a really traumatic thing that happened, right? And for some reason, I saw a report earlier today that they were claiming that it was a weather balloon. A weather balloon that did that damage to the plane. Do you believe that bullshit, Rob? The plane that I reported yesterday that got hit by an object that shattered the fucking windshield and peeled back the metal of the plane, and you can see like it's scraped up really. It's like it looks like hard contact, right? They're trying to say it was a weather balloon. Are you fucking kidding me? If we're gonna play that weather balloon game, I tell you, I got plenty of bridges to fucking sell to you here in Connecticut. Just pick the one you want and just write me out a check. It's crazy. We are living in crazy times. But let's go straight to it because this is Jason A. And I want to check it out. Let's go. Look at the damage on this plane. It hit. Okay. It hit right here. Look at the like you can see like it looks like a friction. It's like you see how the color discoloration, like it was like metal or something that's like scraped it. And not only that, but it hit up here. It hit up in this area, and you see how this is bent backwards? That's a piece of the metal on this. You gonna tell me a fucking weather balloon destroyed a windshield that is basically like it's supposed to take like hard hits and it did take a hard hit, and you think this gap hole is from a fucking weather balloon? Are you fucking kidding me? I don't know what world and what they trying to like play games with our heads and play games, but that's cruel. That was not hit by no fucking weather balloon. I'm sorry, no. That's a nice try, it's just, I tell you, I can't. Let's just watch Jason A.
First at 10, a United Airlines flight coming from Denver to LA diverts to Salt Lake City after an object struck the plane midair, shattering the windshield and injuring the pilot with glass shards. Investigators suspect it could have been space debris or even a small meteorite.
In what crashed into a commercial airliner 36,000 feet above Utah.
When the pilot made his initial emergency broadcast, he told us that a window in the cockpit had shattered.
Heather Ramsey was recording the sunrise on Thursday's flight from Denver to LA when everything suddenly changed.
One flight attendant really raised her voice at the other and told her get back, get to the back of the aircraft, stop service.
Moments later, they quickly dropped 10,000 feet.
The pilot came on over the intercom and said, unfortunately, we have some bad news. The aircraft has collided with an object. Then he informed us we would have to make an emergency landing in Salt Lake City.
Heather held her phone tight through turbulence and fear, then the tense landing in Salt Lake.
I was looking out the window just thinking we could go down at any time. So it was really scary. We were all kind of holding our breath until the very end. Like, you could definitely feel a tension on the entire aircraft.
This photo, now seen millions of times on X, shows the United Airlines pilot with apparent bruises and scratches to an arm with the plane's windshield busted. All 134 passengers safe and put on a new plane to LA, but what hit that aircraft almost 7 miles high remains a mystery.
That seems a little high for a bird to be.
Yeah.
People are saying,
No.
you know, scrap metal, it could be space debris, you know, we have drones.
The plane landed at LAX about 6 hours late. The odds of something like this happening, astronomical. According to the FAA, there's never been a space debris strike to a commercial airliner, and the chance of that happening is less than 1 trillion to 1.
And the NTSB is now investigating this incident. Of course, they're looking at radar, weather, and flight recorder data. That windscreen has now been sent to the NTSB for examination because they need to look at that. But it's a mystery. It is a mystery. We think it's a weather balloon. We've heard that before. That's all I'm saying. We'll see what happens this time. Thank you, Gio.
Germany's defense minister says that the country must urgently strengthen its anti-drone defenses, but cautions against a hasty response to recent incursions. Those remarks followed drone sightings over German airspace last week, which led to a major disruption at Munich airport and left thousands of passengers stranded. German officials suspect that Russia is behind a surge in drone and aircraft incursions across the region, including those that brought Munich's runways to a standstill. Germany's Chancellor Friedrich Merz said that the frequency of the incursions was unprecedented, but that none of the drones spotted so far were carrying weapons. The Kremlin has denied any involvement.
At a Sochi summit on Friday, President Putin couldn't resist mocking the claims, cracking a joke about airport disruptions in Denmark last week.
I'm not going to do it anymore. I won't send drones to France, Denmark, or Copenhagen, maybe Lisbon. But really, where else is it that they're flying to? But seriously, we don't even have drones that can reach Lisbon. We have some, and they have long range, but there are no targets, which is the main thing. This is also one of the ways to escalate the situation in general, to fulfill the Washington boss's orders and increase defense spending.
On social media, says police need to get the power to shoot down these drones. Then in Brussels, the Belgian defence minister said this morning it's opened an investigation into several drones flying over a military base at Elsenborn near the German border. Who's behind it? Well, Denmark's intelligence services assess Russia is conducting hybrid warfare against the West, and there's a similar thread we're seeing in recent days. The Kremlin denies involvement because the airport has been the latest in a series of similar incidents of drone activity that has massively disrupted European aviation in the past 2 weeks. The first sighting in and around Munich was 9:30 last night local time. Shortly after that, air traffic control was restricted, then suspended operations. 17 flights in total were disrupted. Around 3,000 people provided with beds and camp blankets, food as well. And then 15 flights were also diverted around the region. It's led to a big debate about how to handle the drones in the immediacy.
Let's just put them on the back foot. It's very much the sort of the judo attitude that Putin's already had. I wouldn't be at all surprised if the Russians were behind this, because it takes a state actor to coordinate such activities and to keep it quiet. I mean, where are these drones coming from? Nobody says, I saw my neighbour going out with a few drones in the back of his car. So it's obviously a fairly well-planned operation, planned operation.
It just hit yesterday. There's a trailer for the documentary.
The reaction what the pilots would be saying, you know?
We've had repeated instances of something operating in the airspace over restricted nuclear facilities, and it's not ours.
These are otherworldly things that are performing maneuvers that haven't been seen.
I have seen with my own eyes non-human craft and non-human beings.
This is so secret. There have been very few people in our entire government that have been allowed or provided access to it.
Even presidents have been operating on a need-to-know basis, but that begins to ramp out of control.
It's not acceptable to have secret parts of government that no one ever sees. People have been hurt protecting and hiding this information.
Some people claim it would cost them their lives if they spoke out about these things.
You had information being locked away that could change the trajectory for species. This is
the biggest discovery in human history.
It's interesting.
Biggest discovery in human history.
So I want to play Congressman Burchett's soundbite here so we can hear the congressman in his own words. This isn't some random kook. He's a member of Congress.
Like
Watch.
we don't even know about.
These are entities that are here on this earth, that have been on this earth, that who knows how long, and that we think they're coming in from way out. Maybe they did millennia ago, but they're here and they're in these deep water areas, and that's why. I mean, like we say, we know more about the face of the moon than we do what's going on there, and we have a higher propensity of sightings around these 5 or 6, I believe, deep water areas. And so to me, it just it creates a question there. And then when we have naval personnel telling me that we have these sightings and that there's these underwater craft they're chasing that are doing hundreds of miles an hour, and the best we've got is something that does maybe just a little under 40 miles an hour. So I got a lot of questions about that stuff, and I
have a lot of questions about that too. Dr. Sala, what did you make of his comments there? Does this pair up with things that you've reported over the years and written about?
Definitely, yes. And it's good to emphasize that Congressman Burchett, I mean, he's been talking to a lot of very senior whistleblowers, people from the military, from senior ranks of the executive branch, or from any source that has some information about the UFO issue that they have been reporting to Congress through whistleblowers. And this is an official process, and you mentioned the UFO hearing last week on September 9. So we actually have whistleblowers appearing before Congress talking about their experiences. Now, what we have here from Tim Burchett is something pretty remarkable, that he's been told things about these underwater civilizations that is probably one of the most highly kept secrets in terms of what the US Navy is doing in the Atlantic Ocean. Now, the US Navy does have an Area 51 in the ocean. It's called AUTEC, which is the Atlantic Undersea Testing and Evaluation Center. It's on Andros Island, which is actually part of the Bahamas. So think about that you actually have this submarine base, this top secret submarine base, Andros Island, which is not even part of the United States. And right there in that diagram, you can see Andros Island with AUTEC. And just to the right of it is Tongue of the Ocean, which is a very deep part of the ocean there in the Bahamas. It drops off immediately around 3,000 feet. And so that's ideal for a submarine, but it's also a place where people have seen many UFOs, many underwater craft coming into and leaving the water. So there've been a lot of UFO sightings in that area. And I've actually got 2 witnesses who actually have been to locations under the water near the AUTEC.
So hold on a second. So you have 2 witnesses that have been working on these, I guess you could call them secret space programs, even though they're under the water by all accounts, that have been to these underwater bases basically in the Bermuda Triangle area. Is that right?
That's right, yes. 2 independent whistleblowers, people who have been participants in secret space programs, that have talked about their experiences. And these were experiences that were like over 40 years apart. So the one that I first began to discuss was with this Army insider who still goes by the pseudonym JP. Those are just the initials of his name. And at the time he was serving with the US Army, and he was called on a mission where he went to a ocean platform. He was taken there by a Black Hawk helicopter with 3 other personnel. One was a diplomat, and then they boarded a submarine that was crewed by these, they were kind of like Nordic looking beings. They were very, very tall, like 6'9", 6'10". And he says that they went down in this submarine. It wasn't a US Navy submarine. It was something that had really advanced technologies inside it. The ceilings were very, very high, like 10 foot. So clearly not a US submarine. And he said it was very likely able to go out into space as well. So it was capable of both going into the ocean at high speeds and also flying into the atmosphere and out into space.
All right, let's keep it moving. Gotta keep it moving.
Rule, who has been on the Kata Scott case pretty consistently for the better part of 2 weeks. And Kelly, just as we're getting ready to come on the air, there is an update on the charges that we all have been kind of waiting to see what happens.
Yes, we just got official confirmation from the medical examiner's office through Philadelphia police that the cause of death for 23-year-old Kata Scott is homicide. That is what investigators have been waiting on to move forward with homicide charges. So Philadelphia police said they are recommending homicide charges against 21-year-old Keon King. You'll recall he is in custody for kidnapping, arson, and other related charges connected to Kata's disappearance. They are now recommending homicide charges against him. Will ultimately be up to the district attorney's office to move forward and officially charge him. We have reached out to them and we have not heard back from them. Obviously, this just came out in the last 10 minutes or so. So it's going to take a little bit for those charges to officially be filed, but we are waiting confirmation that they will do that. At the press conference with the district attorney's office on Monday, they did say homicide charges will be filed this week. So we do expect that to come.
So this was not unexpected. I mean, there was still speculation as to whether or not there were other people involved as to how Kata Scott tragically lost her life. This confirmed what most people suspected, but it doesn't change how many people may be charged as they go forward. Those questions still have to be answered.
That's exactly right. We've been hearing from law enforcement sources all week that these homicide charges were coming and that they would be against 21-year-old Keon King. Again, he's been in custody and he's been charged twice now for different crimes, all again connected to Kata's disappearance. So we did know this was coming, but it does not change the fact that the investigation is ongoing. The district attorney's office, police did make it clear that they believe Keon King had help. We know that there's surveillance video over at the rec center here next to the school that showed another vehicle and other people there when
That's crazy, man.
the car that Keon King is connected to was there. So we do expect,
and she was so pretty.
in that additional
This is the Philadelphia case.
could come. This does not change that, and it doesn't change, you know, maybe even additional homicide charges as well. But all along, they have been confident that homicide charges would be coming against Keon King, and now it's a waiting game to see if that's ultimately what the district attorney's office moves forward with.
Okay, and so then just for my clarity, so the official ruling came out of the medical examiner's office. That was confirmation that it was homicide. Now the charges, the district attorney's office takes that information and decides how to proceed?
Exactly. All police can do is recommend charges to the district attorney's office, and they confirmed within just the past few minutes or so that is what they are doing. They are recommending homicide charges. That's kind of all they can do at this point. Now it's in the district attorney's office hands to move forward and officially charge him. Again, Keon King is in custody. He has been for almost 2 weeks now, I guess a week and a half or so.
They have him in custody, so that's a good thing.
Had 2 additional sets of charges against him. So this will just be additional charges when he's in custody, but it will be up to prosecutors to officially go forward with that.
Okay. And then obviously this was the news that we needed to get to immediately. But throughout the day, Kelly, and I kind of give us an update on that, you were also looking into questions and concerns that people had about kind of the state of the building, the facility, why some of this area had not been maintained.
Yeah, so this property has been vacant for more than a decade now, since 2008. And this has been an eyesore for the community. Neighbors in the community have complained about it for quite some time. And on Monday, when a flurry of landscaping crews showed up from the city's Department of Parks and Recreation and clip with the school district of Philadelphia because it is a shared property. They were happy to see that there was some improvements being made, at least to the landscaping, but they were also frustrated, saying, it took a absolutely horrific tragedy to happen behind the school for all of this attention and all of this work to show up. So today we spoke with a longtime homeowner that lives just a few blocks away on Ardley Street, who also coaches baseball at the rec center here on the baseball fields and has for 25 years. Says it's a beautiful park, but often it, as people are playing there, this is the backdrop, and it's just been frustrating. So he wishes it never happened. He feels this is a tragedy that maybe could have been prevented here, not, entirely, but a tragedy that could have been prevented here.
Yeah, well, it could have been prevented. Let's see what else we got here. Let's check out this one.
What's up, guys? Spenny. They just discovered a sniper's nest outside of the airport where President Trump lands in Palm Beach this last weekend. Why would you set up a sniper nest right there, except for, well, you know it. We've seen too many bullets fly past President Trump's head. I, for one, am really tired of having to watch that happen, whether it happened live during Butler or whether it was supposed to happen on a golf course with another sniper nest. That guy, Ryan Routh, was trying to get Ukrainian Stinger missiles, American Stinger missiles, from Ukraine to shoot Trump's plane out of the sky. That was his whole goal. The sniper thing was a last resort operation. There are so many forces out here that are trying to harm President Trump's life, and it's become really fraught. It's happening in spite of the fact that we know he is the single most targeted man on earth, and it's happening in places where you'd least expect. I don't mean to make a really huge issue out of this, but this moment was critical. This is President Trump walking into the United Nations, a building that we own in the heart of Manhattan. He's using the escalator with his wife, and as soon as they step on the escalator, it stops and gets turned off. The goal here, of course, would be to have President Trump fall over, maybe hit his face on the sharp teeth of the escalator, maybe knock over his wife, Melania, that's in front of him. Perhaps he would hurt himself in doing this. Elevator teeth are sharp. You'll notice, by the way, that the elevator next to them, the escalator next to them, keeps working. Somebody shut this off. And by the way, they bragged about it. Here, ladies and gentlemen, check this out. This is commentary from UN staff. To mark Trump's arrival, staff members have joked that they may turn off the escalators. Oh, wow. And tell him that they ran out of money, so he has to walk up the stairs. They also sabotaged his teleprompter. Secret Service is looking into this. Hopefully we just disband the United Nations. U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro announced a woman traveling from New York to D.C. was arrested plotting to assassinate President Trump. Goodness gracious. Threatening the life of the president is one of the most serious crimes and be met with swift, unwavering prosecution. Make no mistake, justice will be served. Man arrested for pointing laser pointer at Marine One helicopter carrying President Trump near the White House.
Oh my God.
Suspect allegedly told authorities, "I should apologize to Donald Trump," after being restrained and handcuffed. A man was arrested on federal criminal charges in Washington, D.C. as he aimed a red laser pointer at Marine One as it flew overhead, carrying President Trump. Jacob Samuel Winkler has been charged with aiming the beam of laser at the aircraft, a felony that carries a maximum sentence of 5 years in prison. Secret Service officer was on patrol on Saturday near the White House, securing the presidential helicopter's flight path when he spotted this individual who was shirtless, talking to himself loudly, and then he pointed a laser at the president's helicopter. These are very sophisticated helicopters. If a laser's being pointed at it, do they fire back? Are there munitions? There are. Are there evasive maneuvers that get taken place that put the President Trump's life more in jeopardy? Obviously, helicopters can be quite dangerous. NBC reports that a man was arrested near the White House pointing a laser pointer at the president. A man was also arrested for attempting to scale the White House fence. This individual. Extraordinary photo captured the moment when a protester wearing reflective blue-tinted glasses and a blazer and a tie was escorted by the agents after jumping the White House fence and making it onto the property. He was placed in handcuffs and led off the ground. Wild. What is going on? I guess there's crazy people everywhere. This guy's better dressed than most. Look at how shiny his shoes are. Colombia's president muses about getting rid of Trump in menacing interview as drug feud intensifies. Oh, okay. So he's snapping his fingers saying, we have to get rid of Trump. I wonder what they mean, ladies and gentlemen. And now the breaking news. A man has plowed into security gate outside of the White House, causing total lockdown in the president's mansion. The unidentified driver rammed into the barricades of the White House about 10:30 p.m. This happened last night. He was immediately arrested by the officers from the Secret Service Uniform Division. Investigators searched the car, deemed it to be safe, Secret Service officials said in the statement. Donald Trump was inside of the White House at the time of the crash. Authorities have not yet released the suspect's identity or motivation. Obviously, it's very, very hard to crash into you have to be doing this on purpose. You can see that they ran over multiple security barriers here. The road leading to the gate will remain closed until police tow away the sedan. This is wildly dangerous. There are people around the White House at the time.
He didn't get
This is just the latest in White House breach.
They would have shot a
gunman was
missile
shot by Secret Service members after being spotted with a firearm outside of the White House. The armed man from Indiana parked his vehicle at the same gate that this car slammed into and walked around the streets with a gun. Secret Service agents revealed that the shooter held a dark secret and been suicidal before making the journey. President Trump was at his Mar-a-Lago home when that ordeal took place, but he was there when the car slammed into the White House just moments ago.
Wow.
Look at this. Car crash into security at the Secret Service entrance of 17th and E. The driver is under arrest. This is clearly a direct attack on the White House. You can see here, there is no mistaking the do not enter signs. There is no mistaking these official barriers. And they actually plowed through one of the barriers and destroyed barriers and everything but the rat trap right there. Okay, classic DC.
That way it's going to go through the building?
Look at that.
I don't get it.
It is now on lockdown. Car rams.
Right in the middle, almost hitting the house.
10:30 p.m., an individual drove a vehicle into the Secret Service gate located at the White House. The individual was arrested. The vehicle was safe. The investigation is ongoing. It is harrowing times, man.
Yeah, it is.
Things have gone crazy. Driver was arrested after crashing car at a security gate at the White House. Unidentified driver. This is just yards away from the residence itself.
That's wild.
Goodness. And just one day ago, a U.S. Marshal was shot when illegal immigrants rammed into their vehicles. We have unleashed something very dark in this country, man. It's a terrifying time. We've unleashed something wild. People are living in a bizarre world. Should never resort to violence, but we're seeing it a lot. Pray for the president. Pray that they're safe. And keep your head on a swivel. It's your boy Benny.
It's crazy. It's crazy times we're living in. I'm telling you. Like, there's people, they're like, go find Jesus. So we're going to go find him here in this next episode of Jason A. Let's go.
It's the 1 Thessalonians 5:3. The slogan of the Antichrist is peace and safety. And so, which is nothing wrong with peace and safety, but you have to sort of imagine that it resonates very differently in a world where the stakes are so absolute, where the stakes are so extreme, where the alternative to peace and safety is, Armageddon and the destruction of all things. And then that's where peace and safety gets you way more than it would have in 1750.
Rene Girard, in I Saw Satan Fall Like Lightning, one of his books, the Antichrist boasts of bringing to human beings the peace and tolerance that Christianity promised, but has failed to deliver.
He tells us that there'll be this charismatic, unifying leader who will promise, according to Paul to the Thessalonians, peace and safety. It's particularly this word peace or safety in the original, which means stability, security, safe from enemies and dangers. That there'll be this one who will say, I'm going to fix everything that's wrong and make it all work the way it's supposed to.
Do you expect an expansion of the Abraham Accords?
I do, almost soon. I don't want to use the word immediate, but soon. The Abraham Accords are a miracle in a way. And the 4 countries that went in initially, including UAE, highly respected, big and highly respected, they stayed in, and they're doing incredibly well. I mean, they're basically trading with Israel and have access and everything else. I mean, it's good for everybody. I hope to see Saudi Arabia go in, and I hope to see others go in. I think when Saudi Arabia goes in, everybody goes in.
So they've indicated to you a willingness to do so?
Oh, they have, even as recently as like yesterday. I had some very good conversations.
Yeah, and Robert, as the principal architect of that peace agreement, how significant would it be for the Middle East to have Saudi Arabia be a part of the Abraham Accords? We thought we were moving towards that, and then October 7th happened.
A major paradigm shift in the Middle East is potential.
Well, you're right. The president alone could conclude the Abraham Accords, supported by an expert team that I had the privilege of working with. And I think only President Trump could secure an expansion of the agreements. And now with the ceasefire agreement in place, I think the last remaining obstacle is there.
Yeah. So we're in a much better place.
And we talked about the alliance with Israel, but you mentioned this, the fact that that alliance with our Arab neighbors, our Arab friends, our Arab allies who actually disliked the predominance of Iran almost as much as Israel did, that was so important, not only, by the way, strategically in a military context in terms of security for their own nations, but also in economic ways. And that may play a big part in the further phases. We have done phase 1 now, but these other phases, phase 2 and 3, are extremely important of this peace deal. Appearing before the Israeli Knesset, the president hailed, quote, the historic dawn of a new Middle East and called on Iran to join the movement to make peace. Listen.
There's nothing that would do more good for this part of the world than for Iran's leaders to renounce terror, stop threatening their neighbors, quit funding their militant proxies, and finally recognize Israel's right to existence. We are ready when you are, and it will be the best decision that Iran has ever made.
Let's bring in retired 4-star general and Fox News senior strategic analyst Jack Keane. He's chairman of the Institute for the Study of War. General, it's hard to single out a single thing about the president's Middle East peace plans because there's so many ingredients involved. But
so what we have seen here is an extraordinary military domination that the Israelis have achieved in the Middle East and supported full throttle by the President of the United States. And as a result of that, Iran and all of its proxies no longer hold the position that they had before with an increasingly dominating influence in the Middle East.
Yeah.
That has all been set back. They can rise again, to be sure, David, but the opportunities now that are going to be open up are so considerable. Normalization with Lebanon, a security agreement with Syria, potential normalization with the remaining Arab nations in the region with Israel. A major paradigm shift.
And now with the ceasefire agreement in place, I think the last remaining obstacle is there. We had conversations with our Saudi counterparts and many in the region and outside the region, quite frankly. You saw the Indonesian leadership historically visit Israel and also make some interesting comments at his address to the General Assembly in the UN in New York. And so I think the expansion is now back set in motion. That was done when the president concluded the first agreement in his first term. And I think it would be epic and it would be historic and it would be the mark of a new era. And it also, I think, is to the credit of Israel and the United States for decimating the Iran and its axis of resistance and eliminating the cloud of the Iranian nuclear program that has really opened the daylight here for the region to enter into a new era. And it would be, from an economic and security perspective, absolutely historic.
Hamas, their role in this, they've got to put their weapons down. One question, do you think that they will? They have not yet. Number two, this Middle East peace team, these countries that would go into Gaza and be the peacekeeping force in the region. Do you like that idea, first and foremost, but also can we trust that will be handled accordingly to keep Israel safe?
Well, that is a great question.
You have to look so close to the camera.
Look, you're showing footage now of Hamas putting on their uniforms and returning to the terrorist activity for which they are defined, and executing Palestinian citizens without international repercussions or protest, I might add, in ways that we haven't seen since ISIS has returned, because essentially they share the same ideology and the same tactics. We also, of course, as you know, saw the execution of, or the killing of 2 Israeli Defense Force soldiers just this weekend on the Israeli side of the yellow line, withdrawn in accordance with the agreement. And the violation was addressed, and we have a ceasefire resumed. But in the end, an international peacekeeping force is probably required. We know that it will not involve U.S. troops, boots on the ground inside Gaza, but observation from a distance, much as you see the U.S. security coordinator doing in Judea, Samaria, the West Bank territories now. And so necessary, but I don't know that we'll get to the point where Hamas disarms to allow that to occur. Planning begins in the next week or so for phase 2, and we'll see whether Hamas is willing to disarm. The president was explicit on what will happen if they don't.
Absolutely. And you're right. This is the more difficult part of all.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, they all knew for years that there was never going to be a 2-state solution, Palestine and Israel, as long as Hamas and Hezbollah and Iran were calling for a 1-state solution. And that was the destruction of the state of Israel.
Yes.
And they knew that had to go away, and that meant Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran's influence had to go away. They were always for that. They weren't going to cheer Israel on publicly, but privately they certainly were doing all of that.
Yeah.
So they're welcoming where we are right now, bringing this to an end militarily, so we can stabilize the governance in Gaza and get on with restoration. And they're willing to put some serious financial backing to achieve that end, as well as contribute to a stabilization force to help enforce the peace agreement.
We don't have much time.
All right. Thank you, Jason A. Great video. All right. We're here to almost, I believe, the last video of the night, unless we have a late entry by Tyson, but we are going to be watching an episode of Tyson de la Cruz. So let me set this up. I'm hoping by 10:15 he'll do a video will be uploaded, hopefully. And then maybe I could show that one as the last one of the night. Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see. How long is this one? I'll tell you. It's about 13 minutes, I believe. All right, well, let's check it out. And then if he uploads one while we're watching, I'll set it up and we'll watch it too. So I blew the 2 hours and 30 minutes. See, I passed it by like 7 minutes, but it's okay. We'll go a little overtime today. Okay, let me set this up. There we go.
An FBI raid on an alleged illegal gambling operation in Wilder.
America, what happened in Wilder, Idaho this Sunday is a perfect example of how illegal immigration and organized crime go hand in hand. The FBI raided what they called an illegal gambling operation at a horse arena. But what they found was a massive network of illegal immigrants being exploited by criminal organizations. But here's the part that's going to make your blood boil. Within hours, hundreds of jobless protesters showed up demanding answers, and we hear from the property owner's father. He's speaking through a translator despite owning a property in America for years.
Law enforcement agents, including the FBI, ICE, state, and local law enforcement, gathered for a massive operation here in Wilder.
What is up, guys? Tyson Dela Cruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. This story perfectly illustrates everything that I've been telling you guys about illegal immigration, creates networks of criminal activity that exploit vulnerable people while liberal activists rush to defend the criminals. Let me break down what really happened in Wilder, Idaho on Sunday, because the mainstream media is trying to spin this as just some gambling bust. This was a coordinated operation involving nearly 200 federal, state, and local law enforcement officers. You don't bring that kind of firepower for a single poker game.
And we begin the news at 10 with developing news out of Wilder, where nearly 200 federal, state, and local law enforcement officers carried out a federal search warrant at La Catedral Horse Arena.
The operation targeted La Catedral Horse Arena, owned by Ivan Tellis, who got hit with criminal charges for running an illegal gambling business. But here's what they're not telling you. This wasn't just about gambling. This was an 18-month investigation that uncovered a sophisticated criminal network using apps like Venmo, Zelle, and Cash App to process thousands of dollars of illegal bets.
Court documents show Samuel Bejarano regularly posted about the gambling operation on Facebook, including a June 25th post showing a betting sheet filled with names and large wagers.
These criminals were so brazen, they were advertising their illegal gambling operation on Facebook. In late August, an undercover agent witnessed betting couriers with backpacks full of cash. This is organized crime, not some casual weekend gambling. More than 50 people were detained during this operation, and here's the key detail. People who could show you documentation were, get this, released, while those who couldn't were sent to Boise or Mountain Home for further processing. This tells you everything you need to know about who's really at these horse races. Now, let me tell you about the detention process, because this is where the story really emerges. Federal agents set up large-scale screening areas where they can process people who were zip-tied and handcuffed.
And about an hour into the raid, everyone besides those who were detained got sent out of the arena.
The process was as simple as key lime pie. If you had proper documentations, you were released. If you didn't, you were sent away for further processing. One woman who was detained described being fully zip-tied until her wrists couldn't move, having to put all her belongings in a clear pouch, but she was released after showing documentation. Speaking of people being exploited by criminal networks, let me tell you about something that's been exploiting American retirees for decades. Outdated retirement strategies that haven't changed since the 1970s. While we're watching these criminal operations get exposed in Idaho, 5-2 right now.
I saw some people were chained and loaded into vans by agents. I also saw kids reunited with their families and police drones searching for people in a nearby cornfield.
Think about that. People were so afraid of being caught, they literally ran into cornfields to hide. I said it before and I'll say it over and over again. If you're here legally and just attending a horse race, why are you running from police? The community meeting that night revealed something even more disturbing. Detainees were reportedly being offered $1,000 to self-deport. This is a clear indication that many of these people knew that they were here illegally and were looking for a way out. Here's what really gets me about this whole situation. Within hours of this raid, hundreds of protesters showed up to Cladwell demanding answers. Now, let me ask you something. How do hundreds and hundreds of people with nothing better to do just magically appear for a protest on a Monday afternoon?
The community was definitely packed here a couple of hours ago. I know it looks empty behind me now, but that was not the scene. There was at least more than 100 people here. They were all sad, crying, yelling.
But here's my question. If this was just a legitimate horse racing event with legal attendees, why are people so upset about law enforcement doing their job?
They were zip tying children. Zip tying children here in Idaho. Ooh. Zip tying children and holding them. Their parents were looking for them.
The protesters were claiming that children were being zip-tied, we've seen this before, and held, and calling it literal kidnapping. But let's be real about what happened. You bring children to an illegal gambling operation run by criminal organizations, and those children can't be immediately identified or their legal status verified. Law enforcement has to secure the scene. The fact that these protesters organized so quickly and has such coordinated messaging tells me this wasn't a spontaneous community response. months. This was an organized effort to create sympathy for people who were caught at a criminal operation. Now let's talk about the interview with Ivan Tellis's father, Andreas Tellis, who owns the property. This interview perfectly illustrates the problem with our immigration system and how people can live in America for years without assimilating.
I spoke exclusively with his father, Andres Tellez Juarez, who also owns the property. He walked me through his home, showing where federal officers forced their way in.
This man owns a property in America. His son was running a business here, but he needs a translator to do an interview. He's been here long enough to acquire property and establish a business, but he hasn't bothered to learn English well enough to speak to reporters.
Espero que toda la gente me apoye en este sistema. Pienso que las personas que ingresaron aquí abusaron mucho de su fuerza.
Tellez says what was supposed to be a relaxing Sunday horse race with families enjoying the event took a sudden turn when law enforcement moved in and chaos broke out.
Gente adulta que viene a divertirse, a desestresarse un poquito de la semana de trabajo.
Through the translation, he's claiming that people just came here to quote unquote have fun and distress from the work week. But federal investigators spent 18 months building a case that shows you this was an organized illegal gambling operation, processing thousands of dollars through digital payment apps. He's also complaining about the abuse of force and claiming that 70 and 80-year-old women were handcuffed with their hands turning purple. But here's the thing. When you're running a criminal operation and people can't produce documentation, law enforcement has to secure the scene for everyone's safety. What happened in Wilder isn't an isolated incident. It's part of a pattern we're seeing across the country where illegal immigration networks create opportunities for organized crime to flourish.
Today's raid, led by the FBI, is the result of an investigation that has been building for months. According to a federal criminal complaint, it all started in February when agents got a tip about illegal gambling tied to horse races at the arena.
This 18-month investigation revealed a sophisticated operation that was openly advertising on social media, processing large amounts of money through digital apps, and operating with impunity in a small Idaho community. The fact that it took federal intervention to shut this down tells you that local authorities either couldn't or wouldn't handle it.
This is not just, this is racist. This is against people who don't have to go through this. This is our country. This is my country. Mexico is not even my country.
The protesters are claiming this raid was racist and the people didn't have to go through this. But enforcing immigration law isn't racist. It is the law. And when you're at an illegal gambling operation and can't produce documentation, you absolutely do have to go through the legal process. One protester said, "This is my country," while defending people who were here illegally. That's backwards thinking that destroys our immigration process. The idea that wanting people to follow the law is somehow discriminatory. Here's something the mainstream media barely covered. There were also counter-protesters who showed up supporting the raid and demanding that immigration law be enforced.
Around 10 counter-protesters showed up about 20 minutes after the rally started. Counter-protesters were playing recordings of President Trump speaking, and in the middle of the ACLU press conference, the counter-protesters started playing loud music, including songs like YMCA. They say they want anyone who is undocumented to be out of the United States.
They understand something that the liberal protesters don't, that we need to get back to where our country started, with laws that are actually enforced.
Do you feel like what happened in Wilder yesterday was necessary?
Oh, absolutely. They're trying to get rid of these people that are coming in.
The fact that tensions escalated between two groups shows you the divide in this country. People who want our laws enforced versus people who think immigration law is optional. 3 Caldwell police officers had to show up to keep the peace when both sides started facing off against each other. The 4 people arrested in this case, Ivan Tellis and 3 others, are facing serious federal charges and appeared in court.
And according to ACLU, people who showed documentation were released. People who could not show documentation on site were sent to Boise or Mountain Home for further processing.
The ACLU is now providing legal assistance to families affected by this raid, which tells you everything you need to know about who was really at this event. If these were all legal residents attending a legitimate horse race, why would you need ACLU lawyers? This wasn't a case of mistaken identity or racial profiling. This was targeted enforcement based on an 18-month investigation. America, what happened in Wilder, Idaho is exactly what we need to see more of across the country. Federal law enforcement conducting thorough investigation, building solid cases, then executing coordinated operations to shut down criminal networks. The fact that this illegal gambling operation was also a hub for people who couldn't produce documentation shows these criminal enterprises exploit vulnerable populations. When you don't enforce immigration law, you create opportunities for organized crime to flourish. The protesters who showed up within hours claiming this was racist or kidnapping are missing the point entirely. This was law enforcement doing their job after an 18-month investigation. If you're here legally and not involved in criminal activity, you have nothing to worry about. The father who owns the property in America but needs a translator to do interviews represents everything wrong with our immigration system. You can live here for years, own a business, acquire property, but never bother to learn English or fully assimilate to American society. The counter-protesters who support this raid understand something that liberal activists don't, that laws exist for a reason and they need to be enforced equally. When we stop enforcing immigration law, we get situations like Wilder, where criminal operations can flourish in small American communities. The adults are back in charge, and it's about dang time. Let me know what you think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.
There you go. Thank you very much for a great upload there. Yeah, I mean, it's a crazy chaos. I don't understand how they assemble so quick. They still must have an app or some kind of way. Like, they send an alert and they wrap it like, all Karens assimilate. Bring everything you have around you. You are being called up to the front lines. Karens to the front lines. Like, that's how crazy I feel like that's how it is. And they come out with their super Karens. It's like, super Karens, activate it. Like, what the fuck is going on? All right, guys. Thank goodness Tyson uploads at 10:15 because I grabbed it and we're about to watch it. A new episode just been uploaded by Tyson De La Cruz, and let's watch.
Folks just kind of joining in and following these ICE agents in their vehicles to the fact that they had to get an armored vehicle out here.
Everybody has the right to live here. This is not right. There's people coming over from other countries because they're fighting wars. It's not fair.
America, what I'm about to show you perfectly captures the insanity of liberal priorities in New York City. Federal agents conducted immigration enforcement operations, and within hours, angry white liberals, community activists, and some seriously uneducated people swarmed the streets to protect people who broke our immigration law to get here. But here's what's going to make your blood boil. These same people who organize instantly to defend illegal immigrants are nowhere to be found when crime is raging.
That's great, Rob.
When drugs are infesting communities, or when law-abiding citizens are suffering from the consequences of failed policies. This is the liberal hive mind in action, and it's destroying cities like New York.
Yeah.
Welcome to
so much money and so much time too.
The concrete jungle where dreams are made of.
No, that concrete jungle is shit. You don't even want to walk in New York City.
We have just walked from Canal Street to the ICE headquarters here in Foley Square. There was a spontaneous protest that erupted with New Yorkers after they saw ICE rounding up people on Canal Street.
What is up, guys? Tyson De La Cruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. This story is the perfect example of how liberals have completely lost their minds. They'll move heaven and earth to protect people who are here illegally, but won't lift a darn finger to help law-abiding citizens who are suffering the consequences of their failed policies. Let me break down what happened in Manhattan, because this wasn't some random sweep. This was federal law enforcement doing exactly what they're supposed to do: enforce immigration law and remove people who are here, get this, guys, illegally.
Dozens of ICE agents swarm Canal Street, targeting individuals trying to make a living.
Breaking news at a tense moment on Canal Street where federal agents carried out an investigation targeting street vendors, and the people detained were brought to Federal Plaza. Good evening, I'm Dick Brennan. We begin with that major federal enforcement on Canal Street this afternoon. ICE agents, along with the FBI, DEA, and ATF, conducted raids on people selling counterfeit goods along the busy street.
ICE agents working with the FBI, DEA, and ATF conducted coordinated operations targeting people who are here in the country illegally. The media tries to spin this as targeting people trying to make an honest living, but these are people who broke federal immigration law to get here in the first place.
Federal agents started a crackdown on illegal vendors in Chinatown.
And the raid by the federal agents and the vendors who are regularly on the streets of New York, leading to a rather tense situation.
The operation led to what media calls a tense situation, but the only reason it was tense is because liberal activists showed up to obstruct federal law enforcement. When you're here legally, ICE operations aren't tense. They're routine law enforcement that doesn't affect you.
Normally, Canal Street is full of street vendors selling all sorts of fake designer goods, but it looks like today was not about the merchandise, but about the people operating those street sales.
This operation focused on the people running these operations, those individuals vending bacon wrap hot dogs and breakfast burritos, people who are here illegally and have been operating with impunity in New York City because of sanctuary policies that protect criminals over citizens. Now here's where the story gets absolutely insane. Within hours of this operation, you guessed it, guys, hundreds of angry white liberals and community activists materialized out of nowhere to protest federal law enforcement doing their job.
Following those very heavily armed officers right here to the federal building, and this is what you have seen now, the NYPD blocking off the entrance to the federal building after they took everyone inside just minutes ago. There were several scuffles that broke out with protesters and federal agents.
These protesters followed federal agents to the federal building and got into physical scuffles with law enforcement. Think about how backwards this is. They're attacking federal agents for enforcing immigration law, but they're defending people who broke federal law to get here.
This is one of the ICE vehicles here.
Crazy.
They were walking back to their cars. Now, one of the agents you can see just getting out of the car, trying to get a hold of one of the other ones. People are pounding on the windows of the car.
Look at this footage. Protesters pounding on ICE vehicle windows, blocking traffic, and physically preventing federal agents from doing their job. This isn't peaceful protests. This is obstruction of justice to protect people who are breaking immigration law.
They're not letting them leave. So it's unclear whether people are even inside the vehicle aside from these agents, but these women aren't letting them go anywhere.
These women, mostly angry white liberals who are dusty, are literally preventing federal agents from leaving. When you physically prevent law enforcement from doing their job, you are not a peaceful protester. You are an accomplice to criminal activity. Let's talk about the community activists who showed up to defend people who broke immigration law, because their statements perfectly capture the liberal mindset that's destroying New York City.
Murad Awadwa is part of the New York Immigration Coalition, and what have you witnessed here today?
What we've seen is that the Department of Homeland Security, ICE, HSI, ERO, and other federal law enforcement agents have been targeting street vendors who are simply trying to make a living.
Murad Awadwa from the New York Immigration Coalition claimed that federal agents were targeting people simply trying to make a living. But these aren't people with legal status trying to make an honest living. These are people who broke immigration law and are now facing the consequences, plain and simple.
And ordinary New Yorkers stood up to fight back against what we're seeing happen in our streets here in New York City, which is just completely and utterly horrifying, to be honest with you.
But what's really horrifying is that the community activists thinking enforcing immigration law is worse than allowing people who broke federal law to operate with impunity.
Have you ever seen 50 to 100 federal agents mobbing a street and beating up people in the street? Because that's exactly
beating up people in the street. No, they're actually arresting people.
But the video evidence shows agents conducting professional law enforcement operations while being attacked by protesters. This is the classic liberal tactic. Accuse law enforcement of violence while ignoring the actual violence from the protesters. The most revealing part of this whole incident is when activists started calling federal law enforcement fascist for enforcing immigration law.
This is supposed to be a democracy. We're supposed to be a nation of rule and law. And what we're ending up seeing is fascist tactics and authoritarian tactics being used in cities like New York right now.
Murad said we're supposed to be a nation of rule and order while simultaneously defending people who broke immigration law. The cognitive dissonance is absolutely incredible here. They claim to support the rule of law while attacking law enforcement for enforcing the law.
The situation quickly got heated when bystanders joined in and started pushing back on the officers. There was shoving, there was cursing. I saw a woman banging on an official car, then thrown to the ground and taken into custody.
That is not peaceful protests. That's assault on federal agents. But somehow the activists want you to believe that the agents are the problem, not the people attacking them.
People are upset, obviously, but it's things escalate quickly, and it's unclear whether anyone was actually arrested. It was undocumented here. It just seems to be the protesters.
So weird.
Here's what really gets me about this
People
whole
blocking the
situation.
middle
Where
of
was
the
this
street.
same energy when
That's
law-abiding
over.
citizens are suffering from the consequences of liberal
Yes.
policies?
Everybody has a right to live here. This is not right. There's people coming over from other countries because they're fighting wars. It's not fair.
But where is that same energy when crime is raging through New York City neighborhoods? Where is this same energy when drugs are infesting communities and destroying families? These same activists can organize hundreds of protesters within hours to defend people who broke immigration law, are nowhere to be found when violent crime is destroying neighborhoods. Drugs are killing Americans and destroying communities. Citizens are getting attacked, robbed, and murdered. Legal immigrants are waiting years for their applications to be processed. American workers are losing their jobs to illegal labor. Taxpayers are funding services for people who aren't supposed to be here.
The spontaneous protests occurred because ordinary New Yorkers see other New Yorkers being hurt and vilified by these individuals. Of course, anyone who sees someone being wrongfully targeted is going to take some form of action.
But these people weren't wrongfully targeted, homie. They were targeted because they broke federal immigration law. Let's talk about the real victims in this situation. Law-abiding citizens and legal immigrants who are being ignored while liberals rush to defend people who broke immigration law.
ICE raids on Canal Street leading to multiple people being taken into custody.
Yeah, this has been an ongoing political story as well. New York politicians are responding already.
New York politicians immediately responded to defend people who are here illegally. But where's their response when citizens are victimized by crime? Where's the outrage when drugs are destroying communities? Where's their concern for legal immigrants who follow the rules?
Canal Street is calm right now. The sidewalks empty of any street vendors after today's chaotic arrests. We are waiting to learn how many were taken into custody.
This is what happens when you actually enforce the law. Illegal activity stops. Law-abiding citizens feel safer in their communities. But liberals want us to believe that enforcing immigration law is somehow wrong. What we witnessed in Manhattan is the liberal hive mind in action, a coordinated response that instantly mobilizes to protect people who broke immigration law while ignoring the suffering law-abiding citizens.
Those vehicles were able to make it out of there. That was a challenge when we covered all of this in Los Angeles at the facilities where the vehicles were trying to pull away. People would stand in front of the vehicles.
This same exact pattern is happening in cities across the country. Wherever ICE tries to enforce immigration law, the liberal hive mind activates to obstruct justice. They have a coordinated network that can mobilize protesters faster than emergency services can respond to crimes. Murad complained about law enforcement and said the federal government should invest in supports that New Yorkers need. But the support that New Yorkers need is immigration law enforcement, crime reduction, and stopping the flow of drugs, not more taxpayer-funded programs for people who are here illegally. The liberal hive mind operates on a simple principle. People who broke immigration law deserve protection. Law enforcement deserves attack, and law-abiding citizens deserve nothing. America, what happened in Manhattan perfectly captures everything wrong with liberal priorities in New York City and cities across the country. They'll move heaven and earth to protect
they
people
need the
who broke
National
immigration
Guard.
law to get here, but they won't lift a finger to help citizens who are suffering from crime,
A lot of
drugs, and
liberals
failed
in New York.
policies. The instant mobilization of hundreds of protesters to defend people who are here illegally shows you how organized and coordinated the liberal resistance to law enforcement really is. These aren't spontaneous community responses. These are coordinated efforts to obstruct federal law enforcement and protect people who broke immigration law. But where is this same energy for tax-paying citizens? Where is this same energy when law-abiding citizens are suffering from the consequences of sanctuary policies that protect criminals over citizens? It doesn't exist because the liberal hive mind only cares about protecting people who support their political agenda, regardless of whether they're here legally or follow the law. The real victims of this story are the law-abiding citizens and legal immigrants who follow the rules, pay taxes, and wait their turn, only to watch people who broke immigration law get priority treatment and protection from the very people who are supposed to serve them. This is what happens when you elect people who care more about virtue signaling than public safety, more about protecting people who broke immigration law than protecting citizens. The liberal hive mind is a cancer on American cities. And until we start electing people who start prioritizing law-abiding citizens over people who broke immigration law, this insanity will continue to destroy our communities. Let me know what you think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.
Very good. Another beautiful episode. Which is true, like, why are these people, okay, why, like, I know the police is not getting involved and so forth, and it doesn't make any sense to me, like, why law enforcement, I mean, what, didn't they take an oath, to protect the people and all this crazy bullshit, and they're not even doing their jobs, and then they're overwhelmed by their jobs, and I just see a complete spiral if Madani wins, and I'm kind of rooting for him to try to win so they could suffer the consequences, because a lot of people are going to be moving out of New York and down to Florida, which Florida is going to be the new center hub for financial district. It's no longer going to be Wall Street in New York City. They're going to take that down to South Beach. And it's going to really suck for New York, man. And the thing is that they just let it get run down. It's despicable. But I hope he doesn't win. I really don't want him to win. But those machines in New York are very questionable, and especially the early voting. Okay, I don't trust it. I usually go the day of the election, which is November 4th. I will be there on November 4th. I like to go in person, and I like to get my sticker. I have my sticker from Trump's right here on the dragon. You guys never notice it, but there's a sticker right here on the dragon, and that's when I voted for Trump. He's holding the Trump sticker. The dragon is. And I'll be looking forward to this upcoming election that's coming within 2 weeks? 2-3 weeks from now? It's gonna be very interesting. The times are gonna be very, very, very interesting. And we'll see what happens. I mean, I don't think the elections are fair. I don't know, anything connected to the internet can be manipulated. I keep saying that because it's true. Anything connected to the internet can be manipulated, and the elections are connected to the internet. So, anyhow, I'm out of here. We made it to the 3-hour mark, and I'm tired. So I'll be back here tomorrow with, you see who's scrolling on the bottom of the screen. I'll be back here with Tyson De La Cruz tomorrow at 7:30, 4:30 Pacific. And we're going to have a great show. And we'll see what we're going to talk about, because I surely don't know yet. I usually find the topic during the day of the show, and then I'm like, okay, I want to talk about this. But I don't communicate with him until the show. That's our kind of like our deal or type of thing. Like, we don't communicate with each other during the week. We don't talk, and we only get to talk when we on the show. I don't know. We're trying to keep it very like two minds coming together, and doesn't need to be constantly talking to each other to be on the same page. So with that said, have a good morning, good afternoon, and good night. And I'll catch you on the flip side. And I'm excited for tomorrow. I hope you guys are too, because Tyson De La Cruz will be here. All right, guys. Good night. Peace.